What's up? Hi, Travis. Hi, Vandy. How's it going?
Hi.
Hey.
So, I'm sorry, I don't know what you mean by locked.
That says stage limited.
Stage limited?
Like there's a little lock sign over the thing. Can everybody else see it? Can you do like an add everyone? Normally when that appears in politics, it means that not everyone can see it.
It says I'm about to mention 1,000 plus people.
Okay.
So yeah, everyone can see it. Oh, no, it's not locked, so it just appears like that because the add everyone by default cannot interact unless they verify, but pretty much everyone's verified, so everyone either has like a peer now verified role or above.
All right.
So like, the lock system is there, but people can should be able to join just fine. Maybe I can set up an announcement.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
What do you want me to say? Like any specific verbiage, or just anything?
Anything, debate the existence of God or whatever.
Okay. The event. Okay, I'll start the event, I guess. Oh, the stage is already open. I guess the event. Hold on. Refresh.
What's up, guys?
Not much.
Sending love to everyone out there.
Yeah, I think. I think everything's good to go now.
All right.
Yeah, there was something going on, but whatever you changed, that definitely fixed it.
So, anybody have any arguments for the existence of God? I'm an atheist. Don't think God exists.
And I assume many of them, or at least the hot one, I still stand by this, is the contingency argument. No longer the kalam.
Those are like the same thing, though.
They're extremely similar, both cosmological arguments. They're also kind of linked by Islam, too, and that's where they share their initial roots. In fact, Kalam basically is just the study of promoting Islam. And then the Kalam, it just became the Kalam cosmological argument. Linked with Dawa, which is basically defending and spreading the faith, inviting to Islam.
Sounds like a terrible idea.
It does indeed. I dislike the notion of prophethood altogether. I just don't understand why God would have a middleman. The most often
His
put
voice is too
rebuttal,
loud. Like if he spoke to you, your head would explode. So yes, it's just too loud.
like that episode of The Boys where everyone's head just explodes.
Yep.
But it's always just someone just saying, yep, I definitely spoke to God, and you should almost always give me your money, your fame, or generally speaking, your women. Except for Jesus. Didn't have a, well, who knows? And Muhammad, well, that's probably wouldn't be allowed near Chuck E. Cheese, but that's okay. Who's counting?
Yeah, Jesus was into dudes. That's why he had 12 disciples, 12 guy disciples.
Makes sense. Long hair, robes. Keep on making my claim for any of the Christians out there. Only 3 of the Gospels mention Jesus as God. Or I should say, only 1 of the Gospels. 3 of them just mention him as a son of God. But in John, he officially becomes I am. My new kick. Thanks to Bart Ehrman. Go check out his book.
Cannot hear you, Arjuna.
I can't believe you would say something so profound. I think we're gonna have to censor that later.
Probably.
I see the phone icon, so that would actually make me think it easier to come through the microphone, but there's only one microphone.
I think Discord just doesn't work well with phones.
That might be true too. But it might be just a settings issue. We should do a call out in general.
Need more people to join and have questions and comments and arguments and stuff.
Yeah, proof of God exists. All right, we'll see if they come. In fact, I'll even make the claim a God does not exist. I call myself a medium atheist because I mostly believe that the gods presented before us have or do not exist. Because who knows? Could be gods out there that there could be a lot of empirical evidence for. Ever since the invention of cameras, this god just seems to have gotten very shy. The miracles, can make cancer go into remission, can't really make a limb grow. Yet I know what would convince us a little bit more is being able to actually come on down. Did it for Paul. But I get it, camera shy. It's also now raining in heaven. Though I'm just going by the Christian model, there's always the Muslim model. Also, not true if any Muslims, or I guess Jews, if they want to come defend it. Because Adam and Eve didn't exist. Well, he jumped. They're saying you may have audio issues.
I'll refresh, see if that works.
Just keep on rambling. But Theist, feel free to raise hands.
Can you hear me all right again?
Come on in. Yes. Does the green hand mean want to speak? If so, I'm trying to bring you up.
The white hand is want to speak. Green hand has been invited on stage.
Oh, gotcha. Though, while we're at it, the other religions aren't true either, just because we go after the desert trilogy. As much as I love the pagans for, being friendly to us, that's not true.
The Desert Trilogy.
Yeah, all seems to stem back from the Exodus and all this nonsense. Let's see. I think someone rose their hand. Hi, T.
Catholic traditionalist.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody.
Hey.
Good morning.
You atheists. So you God does not exist.
Yep.
Yep.
Do
I'll
you,
come back later, all right?
evidentialists? I mean, do you believe in evidentialism?
TJ,
What's up?
Amy, do you hear me?
Yes.
I'll come back later.
All right. Is that Frank?
Okay, that's okay.
You can deal with this guy, okay?
All right.
Okay.
So, do you have any evidence God exists at all?
Well, do you guys believe in evidentialism? Is that what you're at? You want evidence? You believe in it? You're evidentialist?
Yes, because if you don't have evidence, it's probably just your imagination.
And you don't need to attach an ism or an ist. We want evidence, yes.
Now, what's your evidence that justifies your belief that God does not exist?
Because you have none that he does exist, therefore it's probably just your imagination. Do you have any evidence he exists?
Is lack of evidence provided evidence that God does not exist?
Yes.
It's also a good
Oh, okay.
foundation.
So then if there's lack of evidence that there's goat on Mars, then there's
So
definitely
are
no
you
goat on
gonna
Mars,
actually
correct?
provide evidence for your God, or?
Well, you said
Yep,
yes
that's
to
right.
my question, so that's why I'm
Do you
asking
have
you
any
about goat
evidence
on Mars.
for your God? Because I don't really care about that. Do you have evidence for your God?
Okay. Notice everyone that he said that absence of
Do
evidence.
you have evidence for your God? If we have positive evidence that things come from people's imagination and are not real, then until you provide positive evidence it exists, it's rational to conclude it's from your imagination and is not real. So yeah,
But I also wanted to ask if he had evidence for gold on Mars, because this is like con artist logic. Like, oh, no, no, no. Have you ever proven there isn't gold on Mars? Oh, well, I got a timeshare for you.
yep, he was just dumb. Can't provide evidence for his God, so all he does is deflect and delay.
But I would also say that not only is not having any good evidence a good foundation, but we have all empirical evidence points to a physicality of minds needing a brain, and we have no evidence that the natural laws of nature come from a mind or a creator.
Hey guys.
Hey,
What's that?
So hopefully you can hear my voice. I have a lot of problems with this phone, but the other one wasn't working at all. The Arjuna one you invited up for like no reason at all, basically. I don't know why you invited me up on that account, but I appreciate it, and that's why I switched accounts and came to you here today. I understand you guys are theists, and I want to ask you a question.
We're atheists.
Sorry?
atheists.
We're atheists.
Oh, okay. Well, that's no fun. I could maybe you want to like steelman the religious position.
No, not really.
It's a very this is a very simple question.
Okay, what's the
I can
question?
explain why I
And,
think they believe it, or why they're convinced, or why
okay,
they. I
that would
mean,
be really helpful.
in the Christian tradition, they believe that Jesus has risen 3 days after
Okay.
being sacrificed and
No,
reigns
no.
in heaven.
Amy, it's a specific thing that I'm interested in,
Just
not
ask what's your
the
question?
gospel
What's your
of Jesus.
question?
Okay, okay. What it is you as a a fake religious person believe that God heals people, right?
Sure.
You believe God works miracles and He heals people. He causes cancer to go into remission. Why doesn't God heal people with Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, spina bifida? Why don't we have cases like that?
Because he doesn't know how. It's because they sinned. That's why. They're
aren't
sinners.
aren't you a very faithful person? Okay, great.
God
Okay,
likes seeing pain and is a pseudomasochist.
God likes me. Okay, I honestly thought you guys were theists. Like you were theist helping people
No,
with
it's
philosophy or something.
helping theists to not be theists anymore.
Okay. Well, you should check out the Grimoire guy. He's very intelligent. You'll have a good time with him.
He is not very intelligent, clearly. He can come up and speak. I have no against him, but he's clearly not very intelligent.
Okay.
Sending love to everybody out there.
I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe he's the Son of the living God, and I
No,
believe
you
you're going to burn
don't.
in hell. Of course I do.
You've changed your positions drastically multiple times in this conversation.
You don't remember me. Come on. Okay. Okay. God bless you guys.
Yep.
Get some tape.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, T-Tum. I want to ask you something.
Clearly.
Yeah, clearly. So I want to test you with some stuff. I'm going to use my favorite argument. So basically, what's up your ass?
Anybody else? Any actual arguments for God?
In fairness, I could tell what's around my corner. Come on, Theus. You've had thousands of years. Welcome, W.
Hello. I have one question.
Okay.
Is your gender identity the same as religion, since science doesn't truly reflect how you're feeling?
No, I think a gender specifically is about feelings, and so it's the feminine gender. That's what I am.
Yeah, like religion. You're like just like religion, right? Like you
So,
believe in your own religion of gender, right?
what's your definition of a religion?
Just worshipping something without the evidence for it.
Okay, what do you think I worship?
Yourself.
I disagree.
What do you worship then?
I don't. I guess my
You
partner
worship.
sometimes.
Is he a man or is he a woman?
She's also transgender, yeah.
So sorry, biologically, what is this
It's
person?
male to female transgender.
And what are you?
I'm also
Biologically?
one.
No, biologically.
You have all the information you need. That's literally. So anything else is just you're not trying to actually offer a rebuttal.
Yeah. Do you call yourself a female?
Who?
I do.
Why?
Because I am.
Do you have any like
When you
actually
say you
meaningful
are,
questions?
what based on
I know
what
they
evidence?
can't do
Nope.
theology. They just go into gender
Yeah,
identity
am I allowed to speak?
politics.
Hello?
Go for it. One of your questions.
Yeah, I'm sorry, what were your pronouns again? Amy Newman?
She, her. And welcome.
And you're a biological woman?
All right. Do
I
we have
am not.
anything
I am a
related to
trans.
God?
They do not. Because it's all basically personal experience. Now, once again, if you like a flavor of ice cream, if you like a shirt color, it's personal. That's a time to use personal experience. If you think someone is watching us 24/7, 365, and is the creator of the universe, don't you think that's just like a higher priority thing? Is it just me? Many of them think we're going to burn in hell forever and ever.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
What's your name?
My name is. Do you have any arguments for God?
Yeah.
Okay.
My god's a big fat ape in the sky.
That's great. Anybody else?
Test, test.
Hey.
How are you? Also, I too worship the band Gorillaz, so we're just going to put that out there.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I have a question for T-John.
Sure.
Why do you think saying reality is a good argument?
It depends on what the argument is meant to do.
Justifying your worldview.
As a way to ground like logic is perfectly fine.
To ground in logic is by saying reality is reality.
Yeah, because that grounds logic. It's A equals A. Good job.
Can you explain?
Is reality reality?
No, I said explain, not
I'm
ask a
explaining.
question.
Is reality reality?
No, you're asking a question.
Yes, that's explanations can entail questions. Is reality reality?
So you're not gonna
I
answer?
literally just did. If you don't want to like engage, then that's your fault. So I'm explaining, and if you don't want to accept the explanation, then you're just
Why can't you just say the answer instead of asking
okay.
a
You're
question?
done. Bye bye. So obviously he was too much of an idiot to admit, oh, reality is reality. That means, oh, guess what? A equals A. Explanation, 2 steps. Say yes, then you admit it, right? And then you lose. That's that simple. Anybody else?
Daniel Mag.
It's the same guy.
Oh, sorry.
Let me respond real quick.
Wow.
Nope.
That was my fault. My first time handling the ups and downs.
No problem.
No arguments for a god? Pascal's wager. Sergeant?
Hello there.
No.
Hold on. Why is it so low? You hear me?
Yep.
Yes, Jim.
I don't know why the volume got so low all of a sudden.
Okay, do you have a question?
Hold on a second.
I will say I'm just gonna rant a little while you test that out.
Yeah, I think I got it fixed.
Okay, good. Well, can I ask you, do you think God is love?
Yes, he is love.
Is he other attributes?
No, he is love.
That's the only thing.
Yeah, God is love. He is he's revealed himself to be as such.
Is God justice?
Within the confines of his love, he displays justice.
Fascinating. So it's only love, just God equal love.
Well, think about it like this. Like a father, which I don't know if you do or don't have.
I do. He's amazing.
Okay, so like a father will display kindness, mercy, forgiveness, understanding, patience, charity, humility, but he'll also display maybe wrath or justice or discipline.
I am so happy you said that word. Can I ask, does God equal wrath?
Well, what you interrupt. The Bible says, "He who answers a matter before he hears it is a folly and a shame unto him." So I was in the middle of explaining that, but you answered before you were done hearing.
So is God wrath?
And so
the question was, is God wrath?
Biblically, I'm saying it's a folly and a
I don't give a
shame
shit.
unto
Is God
you.
wrath? Yes or no?
I don't care whether you care or
Goodbye.
not.
Next.
I mean, just because if God is love and God is wrath, then love equal wrath. We could just make that equal sign all the way around.
Yeah, g'day. How's it going?
Hey. Questions, comments?
Do y'all worship Satan?
No. Satan doesn't
I
exist.
actually worship.
I worship Satan.
I worship Saturn. He's actually 50% softer.
All right. Anybody?
Satan's gonna.
Anybody serious? Any actual arguments? Philosophy?
Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. Yeah, I never understood the God was emotions thing, because God of the Bible quite explicitly says that he's a jealous God. Don't normally put jealousy in the emotions or that are, a good thing. You don't want to covet, even though that's kind of what we do here in America a lot. Not hating on it.
Also, drowning babies, not the thing you do for a loving God.
Yo, if you have a death toll in the planetful, you are not the good guy. Few hands back up. Are we taking W?
Probably.
We got W, T, and Sergeant with the hands back up. They're going up, they're going down. I will make the claim that most of the gender identity politics is because of the religion. Some of it is because of,
I would disagree.
political stuff. Oh,
I think it's probably the other way around, that bigotry of differences in in-groups and out-groups is more fundamental than religion, and that religion adopts those things.
see, we were pushing for things. We were pushing for things like gay marriage. We were pushing for things like transgenders in the military, and everyone was wondering. We were like, we don't know. And it is almost like what happened was, in my opinion, the religious and the reactionaries found out what was happening. And so now their kind of hot thing is gender identity. I know the conventional wisdom would be that it is a more leftist, more liberal thing. I think it is slowly becoming the opposite. I don't think that the LGBTQ are really pushing for anything anymore.
The opposite is in like
I
a
think,
right-wing thing? That kind of makes sense.
yes, I think that, in my opinion, we have gotten what we wanted. We just want to be left alone, and they're afraid of it being solidified, normalized, whatever. Hopefully, with the internet, that's why I go after religion. It's why I think that just going after gender identity and talking about it and focusing on it isn't really attacking the problem. It is often just religious thinking that, because if you have a book that says, you know, burn gays or throw them off buildings, well, chances are you're not going to let them marry either.
Seems like a strong inductive case there.
So, yeah, I just think that focusing on this type of thinking, and I think religion is the largest superstition we have right now.
Don't know if I would agree with that one.
Well, the way I look at it is religion to me, and I guess a god, is just a false positive. They believe in this anthropomorphic thing. It is a thing that created the universe. And so, I mean, there are super things that all have superpowers, but this one made the universe. So I will say, theist, if you also disagree, come on and tell me why. I'm not going to shout over you. You got all the time in the world.
I think there are bigger superstitions though than religion, like the TSA, trickle down
Well,
economics. Mm,
see, those are that's complicated. I don't view that as I view superstitions as like cutting a goat, so it'll rain, or
Wait, how
like,
is that different than trickle down economics? I must know.
well, I guess trickle down economics is just, I don't know, the belief that the good guys are going to eventually, or not the good guys, that's horrible. The guys at the top are eventually going to just give you money all the way down, and that really never happens.
Well, so it's like trickle down economics is the idea that giving tax cuts and financial benefits to the wealthy will then trickle down to the middle and the lower class, which statistically doesn't work. It has never succeeded.
I'd rather give tax cuts for the poor and the middle class. Still give tax cuts for whatever, but yeah, I'd rather it swing the other way instead of towards the rich.
Well, that's why I said that it's the same as cutting a goat to I don't know, worship God or whatever, because it has the same evidential basis or failed evidential basis.
I guess, but it's not like a supernatural, I don't know, kind of thing. Like, I guess if you thought you could levitate, or you thought you didn't have to eat food and you could still, like, have energy and live. You thought you could predict the future. So, please, someone tell us, because supposedly that's prophecy. Prophecy is always, to me, the weakest form, too. It's always ad hoc, at least vast majority we get.
Oops, didn't mean to do that. Taco said he was going to pick up an Amazon parrot, and I was like, wait a minute. Like, Amazon's going to deliver you a parrot? What? I was like, oh.
What? That would be cray-cray. I worked for Amazon. They are efficient to the point where their humans are gonna probably have biomechanical limbs, I swear. They have these like giant Roombas that carry stuff, like it's like a giant Excel spreadsheet that can hold stuff, a giant cart on a Roomba, and it just swivels in 4 directions and you just fill it with shit.
I've seen videos. Those are interesting.
It's crazy. And they've gamified how you take shit. It'll like when you pick stuff is what it's called. It'll shine a light on the Roomba and you pick an item and you press a giant button. I can't tell if it's gamified or you're feeling like it's the Hunger Games, but one or the other.
Anybody arguments for the existence of God, philosophy,
I was gonna say,
epistemology?
evangelicals, Taoists, rabbis, gurus, whatever the Bubbles is.
Bubbles?
You ever met Bubblegum Gun? He is
Oh,
a
yeah.
gentleman. believes in gnomes and believes in all sorts of shit. Evolution triggers creationists so much. Hey, if you don't think evolution is a fact, then come on and tell us why. Well, really, you should tell us why a god doesn't exist, but that's like a proxy war for God for some reason. Helios?
Hello?
Hello, hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, wonderful. He jumped wanted an argument, so I thought I'd give it a shot. Here we go. 1. Everything that exists has a reason for its existence, either within itself or in another. 2. If it is within itself, then its existence is necessary. If it is in another, then its existence is contingent. 3. But the universe is not necessary. 4. Therefore, the universe is contingent. 5. Therefore, the universe has its reason for existence in another. 6. The reason of the universe existence is outside of the universe. Therefore, it has cause outside of the universe.
Yeah, it's a quantum field.
Quantum field is a property of the universe.
No, it's not.
Inside the universe.
No, it's not.
I mean, show me. Can I ask you then, for any scientist, astrophysicist, or who has the credentials, who said that quantum fields are not property or something that exists inside of the universe but outside of the universe, and how did he verify that?
Literally,
answer?
literally everyone in quantum physics. So there's the consensus.
Give me-
The consensus in physics is that space and time is emergent from quantum fields. So our universe, which is a product of space and time, came about by something else, which was quantum fields. And so, yes, everyone thinks quantum fields exist outside of our universe.
Can you give me a paper or anything
Google
that can verify?
emergent
Also, do you have any idea how would they verify
novel
such a
predictions
thing?
with
Since can I finish?
I'm just going to answer your question.
Yes.
How did we verify
since
this?
it seems like
stop
one
talking.
second.
The answer is we verified this through novel predictions about virtual particles called the Casimir effect, and by solving the equations related to general relativity, doing derivations without solving time. What is your confirmation of God? So we have evidence for all of this stuff. Do you have any evidence for your God?
I gave you an argument.
Well, no, I already debunked that. So I said that can be
lead us
I debunked that.
to the conclusion that there is a cause.
Stop talking. So I already debunked that. That does not lead.
Didn't
Stop
debunk
talking.
anything. You
Stop
gave me
talking. That does not lead to God, because the same argument can be answered by quantum fields.
Say
Stop
God.
talking. The same argument can be answered by quantum fields, which means it entails nothing about anything outside of physics. All of physics can already grant that argument. It does not imply a God or a supernatural or a mind. None of that garbage. So, and we have evidence for all of this stuff. What is your evidence for a God?
In fact, Helios, can you repeat your first premise was everything has a reason, right? Can you repeat your first premise?
Everything that has a reason.
Everything that exists has a reason for its existence, either within itself or in another.
In itself or another. Okay, let's talk about that for a second. God exists, right?
That's not what I said.
No, but that's what I'm asking you. I'm asking you, does God exist?
No, so his
The
argument,
cause that the conclusions lead to, I'm responding, my friend, I am responding to you. You gotta let me finish. English is not my first language. I need to think about the word before I pronounce it.
But also, please, if you don't mind, start with yes or no.
Well, just to clarify, so his argument was everything that exists has a reason for its existence, which is either in itself or not in itself. So he's going to say, yes, God
Sure.
exists and its reason is in itself. It's a necessary being. That's his
Okay, but let him say, yes, God exists. That's all I want. That's a clean
I
answer.
don't care if God exists. That's not my point.
Yeah, but my point is you're not going to answer questions.
But you're talking about God. I'm talking about the cause.
Sure, and I'm just asking you if God exists.
Just answer the
Well,
question.
if you're asking me my opinion, personal opinion, yeah, I think God exists, but that's my personal
Okay,
opinion.
so God exists. So God has a cause. Either, what was it, in and of itself, or
Outside of itself, yeah.
Nada.
or outside of itself. Okay, so you're saying God is a cause of itself.
I never said any of this stuff. This is beyond what
That
I
was
am
a
presenting
question.
here,
That
so
was
I
a
don't know why
question.
you're going there.
That was a question.
Okay, if you want to ask me about my life, what I do for work, etc., we can
What?
go
I
there,
don't
but
care.
that's
I
not the
don't care
point
about
of
your
this
work.
conversation. Yeah, I don't know why you're asking me about my faith. We're talking about philosophy. You wanted an argument. I presented one.
Your argument, no, we
Sure,
asked
I'm
for an
just
argument for God, not an argument. I don't just want random philosophical arguments. I want an argument for God.
I presented an argument for a cause.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Quantum fields are a cause. Do you have an argument for God?
But do you notice everything that exists has to have a cause in and of itself or outside of itself? God exists, therefore God has a cause in itself or outside of itself. Yes? Yes.
That is good deductive logic, yes.
I think we broke him.
Probably.
Still looking for anybody, though. Feel free to come up, raise your hand.
Anybody have actual arguments for God? So far, the answer is no, because there aren't any. They're all garbage.
But it is a nice Sunday.
I think I go to work at 3.
Yeah, I got work tomorrow.
I got a job as a bike courier because I'm fat. So I want to lose some weight.
It sounds interesting, though.
Yesterday was a good day. I got, I think, $80 in tips yesterday.
Nice. What do you do?
Bike courier. I deliver things on a bike.
Pretty awesome, though.
Thank you.
I just got a job teaching autism children or children with
Teaching autism to children. Yes.
That is terrible. Yes, no, you got a job teaching children with autism. I'm trying to teach them both at their grade level and how to more effectively communicate verbally.
I also do chess coaching at elementary schools, so I know the pain.
I'm trying to get into chess. Still get my butt kicked.
Have I ever delivered something to a person who recognized me? No, but I did have a person walk into the store and recognize me. Because I wear like a helmet, so people don't really see my face when I'm doing deliveries because I have a helmet on.
You wear reflective gear?
Yep. It's required as a part of the job. It's like just a vest
That's
or something. I totally know how to answer questions, Tioga. You don't know what you're talking about. You're wrong. See, that was a question.
How do you ask questions? See, that was a question.
You're wrong. See, that's a better question.
That's right.
Is the chair on the bike with you? The chair is the bike.
You do need to get like a mobile version of that chair.
There's actually a BMX version, a competition, where they take big lazy boy chairs and they flip them on the ramps.
That is amazing. But yeah, theists, nobody believing in God. He's something tagged.
It's Catholic traditionalists who still has not provided an argument or evidence for his God, because he can't.
5 scary ghost videos that'll make you run in fear. I mean, I'm a fan of SCPs, and so I feel like my brain has to have seen far worse.
Do you have
Okay,
evidence
all
for
right, I'm
God?
back.
Evidence for God yet?
I'm back from you guys removing me from the stage when
Yes.
when I refuted you.
Back from
So
purgatory.
anyway,
The question was, do you have
with
evidence for
regard
God? So
to
if
what I
you're not
just
going to
posted-
provide evidence for God, we're not going to let you stay on the stage.
Yeah. So with regards to what I just posted, well, you didn't provide me with evidence to back up your claim that.
The stage is, do you have evidence for God? So you need to come up and provide evidence for God. You don't get to ask questions. You must come up, provide evidence for God.
Hey, Catholic
Yeah.
traditionalist, you want to go
Yeah, I
through
can
my
provide.
syllogisms
I
with me?
I just provided evidence for God that's in the
I'm not going to. What
in
is it?
the
What is the evidence?
text chat.
What is the evidence?
But Catholic
Yeah.
traditionalists, can I just tell you?
Supernatural activity shows that supernatural exists, and so that lends to credibility that that it could be that a God exists. It's not proof, but it's evidence.
Okay, what's the evidence
now,
of the
I
supernatural
provided
exists?
evidence, and you asked me for evidence, and I did
Yes,
it.
what is it?
But you
you
still
are-
haven't
Wait, what is
provided
it? What is it?
evidence
What
with
is it?
regards to
Stop
your
talking.
belief
Stop
that
talking.
God does not
What
exist.
is the?
So
Stop. So you said there's evidence of the supernatural. What is the evidence of the supernatural?
yeah, I just
I'm
posted
not
it.
going to read the post. Tell me. Use your voice. Use your words.
Yeah, it's a video of and I'm in the video. I'm challenging you.
I don't
Both you,
talk about the
Amy, and
video. Tell me
T-Jump.
what the evidence is. Like, just use
Say the
words.
G word.
Listen, guys, you invited me on the
Yes,
stage.
to
I'm trying to have a
provide
conversation
evidence.
with.
Don't tell me about what
Every
you
time I'm
posted.
going to speak, you're going to interrupt me. Then I'm just going to leave.
I'm
Let's
just going
have.
to kick you off. So the stage is provide evidence for God. It means you have to use your words when you're on the stage and then express what that evidence is. Don't post it in the chat. I don't want to look at the chat. Tell me what the evidence is.
I just don't understand why you can't say the word ghost. Like, you posted a thing, it has nothing to do with Christianity or anything, but you're like, it's one supernatural thing. Also, of a YouTube video, as much as I love YouTube and sending love to the YouTube community, that's not a peer-reviewed journal. And so, cool story, bro. But I'm sending love. We just need something a little bit more.
Abraham.
Welcome, Abraham.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
So you say this the stage is provide evidence for God. What exactly would qualify as such a thing?
Anything that can differentiate imagination from reality.
Yeah, so that's going to be different for everyone, isn't it? So I'm asking you specifically, where's the bar here that is supposed to be met for you?
Well, it shouldn't be different for everyone. It should be like some kind of an objective standard that can differentiate things in people's imagination from reality. So I like novel prediction.
What's the objective standard of like what's in somebody's imagination?
No, it's a method to differentiate, is this thing in imagination or is it out of imagination? It's not. So that's what evidence is. Things that can differentiate, is this an imaginary thing or a not imaginary thing?
Would you have access to like all things that exist, and so we have a clear dividing line here?
Well, you don't need to have access to all things that exist to be able to differentiate imaginary things from non-imaginary things.
Well, it seems like if we're going to be like the whole thing here is dividing between imaginary
Yes,
and
I am thinking of a
reality,
unicorn.
that we're going to have to know what falls on both of these lines here.
Yeah, so I'm thinking of a unicorn, but I don't see one. So which class of those, is that an imaginary thing or is it a real thing? Unicorns are imaginary things, right? Would you agree? Unicorns are imaginary things?
I mean, people see unicorns. It doesn't mean they're real.
Right. So they're imaginary things. Would you agree they're imaginary things?
But they would still see them. So
Well,
the point is like, how
answer the
can
question.
this person divide between those
Do
things?
you agree unicorns are imaginary things?
I've never seen one.
The answer, that was not an answer to the question. The question was, do you agree unicorns are imaginary things?
Yeah, I have no evidence for them. I've never seen them.
So you agree they're imaginary things? Yes or no?
Yeah, I have a certain like bar of evidence for whether or not
So
they exist.
this is a
and
yes
hasn't
or a
been
no
met.
question. Do you agree unicorns are imaginary things?
There's no way I could know that. I've never seen one.
I'm just going to kick you off the stage. This is your last chance. Are unicorns imaginary things?
It's okay if you kick me off the stage. I don't mind.
Okay, bye. So yeah, if you're too incompetent to be able to answer just basic questions, that shows you're not an honest interlocutor, and I can just kick you off the stage. You have no evidence of God. Next.
See one raised hand going back in the ring.
So do you have any arguments
So,
evidence for God yet?
Well, in order to give the argument, I first need to know your position with regards to logic.
You don't need to know my position at
do you-
all. Like, you can just give the argument. My position is irrelevant.
Okay. See everyone in the audience. I'm trying to have a conversation
Just
with
give
these
the
assholes, but
argument.
they're refusing to have
Last
a
chance.
friendly
Last
conversation.
chance. Give the argument.
I'm willing to provide evidence.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Well, can I present him arguments? And I just want to see what his thoughts are. Give me one shot, and if he rambles. What's up, Catholic traditionalists? All right, I just want to go like through a syllogism or two with you. Are you ready? Premise one.
I'd like to have a conversation with you guys instead of this
Sure.
gotcha stuff. Let's just have a conversation, a friendly conversation, all right?
Okay, have a friendly
Okay.
conversation with me.
So, I need to know, with regards to your position on logic, do you believe that it is an abstract, that it is a mental thing, or do you believe that it exists outside of the mind?
It is something that we're utilizing. The laws of logic are just things that we use so that we can grasp hold of reality. A equals A cannot equal B, and something cannot be A and B at the same time.
Okay, that's nice to know, but it doesn't answer my question. My question was very specific. Is it something that is abstract, meaning simply in the mind, or is it something that exists outside of the mind?
I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. What about you, TJ?
You need to provide evidence for God before you get to speak to me.
Okay. Okay. Notice everyone.
So
I didn't get to give my thing at all. I don't get why you asked me a question about logic, but this is what always happens. Please, can you just go through with me? Logic is a presupposition that we both accept. Well, guess he's now not going to come up.
Oh no, what a terrible loss.
Well, every time that we have to ask the questions, they run away.
Yes, they don't answer questions. They don't provide evidence.
It's a good question, like about logic, but it has nothing to do with pertaining to a god. A lot of these philosophical questions, like are we brains and vats? That is a good question in philosophy class. It is not an answer to a god.
Yeah, well, that's typically all theists can do is say point out big problems in philosophy. Ah, you can't solve that God of the gaps. Exactly like what they used to do in physics. But they can't actually provide any evidence of a God.
And I just wanted to present my argument. I am more than just a soft atheist. I think T-Jump and a few other skeptics are too. I believe that the Abrahamic God does not exist. So I wish a Christian or a Jew or a Muslim would allow me to present it to them.
You can present it now. That's fine. What is it?
Yes, that's true. We got some airtime. So I just have 3 different arguments that I think get to the root of a person's beliefs. So 1, it's kind of like a counter column like argument. Premise 1, everything that exists has a cause. Premise 2, God exists. C, everything that exists has a cause. God exists, therefore God has a cause. We actually kind of ran into this just a moment ago. But I then take it further. If we can at least accept that God exists and therefore would have a cause, even if for whatever it's itself, the cause, and then you thus don't accept a universe. Let's put that aside for a second. The contingency argument. Let's move down. Premise 1, human imagination creates most of the gods on earth. Because, we're not talking about your God. We're talking about all the other gods. So let's just have premise 2. Imagination is contingent on the human mind. Conclusion. Since, they all seem to stem from the brain and be put in books. Human imagination creates most of the gods on earth. Imagination is contingent, as we just pointed out, on the human mind. Therefore, most gods on earth are contingent on the human mind. So now we've at least done away with all the other gods, except yours. So let's just come to the third little argument, because I want to know people's beliefs, especially when it comes to presuppositionalists who never can defend their belief systems. And so let's just start with premise 1. It's logical to assume most gods on earth are contingent on the human mind. I mean, we just...
hang on a second. Where does logic come from so you can appeal to logic? Because logic is eternal, universal, and unchanging. It's an axiomatic statement that depends upon an eternal, universal, and unchanging mind. What mind would be the cause of logic?
It's a presupposition. There is no universe.
No, it's no presupposition. I don't presuppose logic. I know it. Do you know logic, sir?
I do, ma'am. Do you understand where logic comes
Yes,
from?
sir.
Where?
Logic and the law of identity specifically. That one you seem to be extremely confused with. You do recognize, sir, that you are a man and that you were born with XY chromosomes and you will die with XY chromosomes. Do you understand that, sir?
You are the closeted homosexual.
I'm
love
sorry, sir. I'm
you.
not closeted in anything. At least I can speak clearly right now. Have you had enough coffee yet this morning, sir?
Did you used to be gay?
No, sir. I've never been gay.
Have you
Not in the
ever
way you're
had a
meaning it. I've
homosexual?
never been a
Have you ever had a
sir. I've never
homosexual
been a
experience?
homosexual pervert. No, sir. I've
Have
never
you
been a
ever had a-
homosexual pervert.
have you
What
ever
I
had a
have been, sir, is
homosexual
I have been a sinner. Absolutely.
Oh.
I have been a sexual pervert, but I'm not anymore. I'm no longer a sinner or a sexual pervert. You can be that way too, sir, if you would repent. You need to repent of your sin.
Hey, Mr. Batman, have you ever heard of the statement, once a sucker, always a sucker?
I've never heard that. That's probably something you live by, isn't it, sucker?
Yeah, sounds pretty good to me. I don't know. That's not an insult to me.
I need like
Anyway.
serious arguments. Like so bored.
I just wanted to know where logic comes from. And if so, a god. Well, know how you got to that god.
I've already had that. I've already explained that to Mr. Batman. Logic is a language created by human minds. It describes reality. It doesn't govern reality. It doesn't exist anywhere. Reality is itself, and logic describes that. It doesn't cause that.
I think therefore I am and logic are two presuppositions that we all take on board, and that the theists are adding on a third presupposition. So I want to know why you believe in a god. It's the thing they refuse to answer.
It's because they're afraid, because every time they answer that, we debunk it and show it's a stupid answer. And so they're just tired of giving answers because they just keep being shown that they're stupid.
Also, always gets bogged down in identity politics. That's all they fucking care about. I want to keep on pointing that out. Oh, T-Jump, I get it. Maybe it's not been your experience. Let me tell you, I try to focus on theology, and somehow it always goes back to that.
Well, I think it's that when
Maybe
you're in,
biased.
well, it's when you're debating somebody and you're not being an honest debater. What you do is you target their weakest position, or what you perceive to be their weakest position, and just only bring that up and ignore everything else.
Sure. No, it makes sense. It's the lowest hanging fruit. You try to go for ad hominems. I'm seeing such rage in chat. I'm sending so much. But two different chats, because sending love also to T-Jump chat, who probably amazing skeptics in there.
So does anybody have any actual arguments for God? Like reason to believe not an imaginary being made up by goat herders?
Goat Herder's Guide to the Galaxy. But yeah, I swear, it's all this contingency necessary. No one comes on anymore to do Pascal's wager. And again, it's a shitty argument. I don't think I ever did get to finish. I'll do the final thing. I'll finish off. It's logical to assume most gods on Earth are contingent on the human mind. That was our first premise, because it was our conclusion of the last one. We have no good evidence for the Abrahamic God existing over any other god. I assume they won't agree with premise 2. That's the whole point I want us to talk about. And so, conclusion, most gods on earth are contingent on the human mind. We have no good evidence for the Abrahamic God existing over any other. Therefore, it's logical to assume the Abrahamic God is contingent on the human mind. Sound enough for me as an atheist, and I understand that if you're a theist, especially of an Abrahamic God, you'd want to talk about that. So come on and tell me why I'm wrong.
I don't think it was valid, though.
I'd be up to talking each one. I've refined it over time, but most of it I've found extremely useful, especially when talking one-on-one theists who don't want to talk about their specific belief system to get there. I'm kind of talking about the open trap to do the trap. I see one specific hand raised.
Well, so I think your argument would be something like, for everything starts as imaginary until demonstrated otherwise. There is no evidence to indicate God is not imaginary, therefore it's rational.
Actually, hold on 1 second. Oh, Okay, you were fuzzy at the beginning, and now you're back.
Okay, so I think your argument is something like, all gods start as imaginary until demonstrated otherwise. There is no evidence or demonstration the Christian or any particular god is more than imaginary. Therefore, it's rational to conclude any such god is imaginary.
Sure, that's not too dissimilar. Maybe just an even more refined. Because I still think they're going to disagree with one of the premises. But if they disagree, normally you have to say why, and not just, I disagree.
I disagree.
I should say why, but I'm just going to say, damn you! Nobody else? I mean, I would bring you up, Catholic traditionalists, but I get the feeling it's, you know.
Sure, I
get
can
the
bring him
feeling
up and then
it's
kick him
weird.
again for fun. Let's go.
Okay.
So, evidence for God. Go.
Why do
Okay,
you believe? Can you just talk to us as humans, Catholic? Forget you're trying to convince like atheists or pummel debate whatever. Why do you believe in a God?
Yeah, because there's plenty of evidence for God. And I just wanted to say this, Amy, that with regards to these stages, you might want to come in here without T-jump, because I noticed that when we're trying, not just myself, but others are trying to go ahead and present the evidence, we keep getting kicked by this idiot T-jump.
What's the evidence?
That's
Go ahead. What's
refusing
the
to
evidence?
listen to the
What's the
evidence that
evidence?
presents. We're trying to have a
What's the
a
evidence?
good
What's the
conversation,
evidence?
mature
What's the
conversation.
evidence?
But notice how he's acting like a child, right?
Server mute. What's the evidence? Go ahead. Like I've been waiting this entire time for the
now.
evidence. It's not being presented. What's the evidence? What's the evidence?
So, Amy, what you might want to
Server
do
mute.
is come.
What's the evidence? I'm not going to let you speak until you actually provide the evidence. You're complaining about me not letting you provide the evidence, yet here I am giving you the opportunity, like I have every single time, and you are not presenting it. So go ahead. Go ahead. Let's show your
Exactly.
hypocrisy. Again, what's the evidence?
Before you say
Yeah,
anything,
so-
let's just clear house. Let's just all clear house one more time. It's Catholic traditionalist. Why do you believe that a God does exist?
Yeah. So, yeah, because there's plenty of evidence. For example, T-Jump admitted he didn't want to admit earlier when
What's
I
the
posed
evidence?
a question to him whether logic.
Server mute. So don't talk to me. Don't talk about me. Tell us what the evidence is. Just say the evidence is fill in the blank. Go for that.
Okay. So if I get muted one more time, I'm just going to
Oops. Oh no, my finger slipped. Oh, oopsies. Oopsies.
Welcome, T.
Hello. Good to see you, T-Jump. The evidence is in the face of the impossibility of the contrary. That is the evidence for God.
It's not logically impossible for God to not exist, therefore there is no contradiction.
So are we allowed to now give a more long-winded explanation, or is it just going to be a moment where we get muted?
Yeah, like if you're actually presenting an argument, you can talk. Like I didn't mute you at all.
Well, I saw how you treated CT, so I don't.
Because he doesn't answer the question. So
Anyway,
so
let's
go for it.
get out of the meta. Let's just get out of the meta and stay right into it. Okay. So, where does everything come from
Reality.
in your worldview?
Reality.
What is reality?
Everything that exists.
All right. Where does everything that exists come from?
Reality.
What's the origin point?
It doesn't have an origin point. It's always been there. There's never been a point where reality did not be reality.
Thank you. Okay, so that's the problem that we have here. We have a point of origin that we can actually coherently say that everything actually comes from.
Where did God
And
come
you
from?
don't. God is eternal. He's the metaphysical.
Do you not just realize that what you said was the same thing I said, and then you said what I said didn't make
Yeah,
sense, and then you just said the same
yeah,
thing?
yeah. Except the last word I said. What was the last word I said?
I have no idea.
Because you're not listening. The metaphysical. You're a naturalistic materialist.
Metaphysical naturalism.
All of
Wait,
your,
wait, wait, wait.
all
One
of
sec.
your.
One sec.
Okay,
One
so
sec.
are we gonna
Listen,
are we
listen.
gonna do the thing
Yes,
where
I'm
we
gonna
interrupt each other, or
mute
can
you.
we
I'm
have a
gonna
back and
mute you
forth?
if you don't stop talking. So, metaphysics is just the
If you
fundamental.
mute me, I'm just gonna leave.
Okay,
I'm
muted. So, metaphysics is just the fundamental nature of reality. There is something called metaphysical naturalism. It's also metaphysics. Saying the word metaphysics doesn't have any advantage over naturalism or theism. They're both metaphysics. Doesn't in any way help to say the word metaphysics as if that's somehow gives supernatural sky daddies an advantage over naturalism.
Yeah. I'm a naturalist as well, because there's no evidence so far for anything but the natural world. Open-minded. Do we have? Oh, I might have invited 2 people. Oh, you invite 1, I invited
Yeah, I
1.
invited Starfish.
Hey, what's up, TJ? Can you hear
Yep.
me?
How's it going?
Pretty good. How are you?
Tired.
Yeah, no, I hear you. So I was wondering, how do you account for the idea of a mind, or the idea of naturalistic universe and little parts of it thinking about itself?
It's emergent properties.
So you're saying consciousness is an emergent property of the universe?
Yes.
Okay. Can you describe the nature of consciousness?
What it's like to be something. Direct experience, qualia.
So direct experience. So you would say that an emergent property of the universe is thinking about its own experience?
Well, that would be a thought, which is a kind of conscious experience. So that would be a second emergent property. Consciousness is just direct experience. Thinking is not is a separate thing.
Mm. So what's it emerge from then in your world?
Brain processes, as far as we can tell, neurons, chemicals.
So chemicals give way to chemicals thinking about themselves?
Sort of. Chemicals don't think about themselves. A collection of chemicals can produce a pattern, which is thoughts, and those thoughts can then think about themselves in certain cases.
And there's only one branch that we know that does this. That is animals.
Yep. Do you find that like a little paradoxical, or no?
No, why would that be paradoxical?
I don't know. It just seems like if there is no such thing, or if consciousness is an emergent property, and that consciousness constantly loops back on itself from this, sub-base of or substratum of material that, when working together, can think about the material which makes it. Seems to just kind of be this endless naturalistic loop that I don't know if really accounts for the fact that we do see now there are competing thoughts against subgroups of this matter. I don't know. One, the idea of that being emergent, I don't think that makes a lot of sense. But number two, what would be the function of that within the universe?
So I did not really understand what you just said. What is the what do you think there's some kind of a paradox between consciousness being emergent, and you said something about it being able to think about itself? Like,
yeah, so if I have like one set of atoms that fire in such a way to think about itself in one way, and then there's another set of atoms that fire and think about itself in another way. It seems a little paradoxical. This idea that
how is that a paradox? I don't understand the paradox there. Like, I can have one TV screen that has a picture of itself and a different TV screen that has a different picture of itself. There's no paradox there.
Well, it's the idea that the universe is somehow going to randomly produce these things, or emergently produce these things.
Why is that a paradox?
That think about itself, and
but it didn't
because it
happen
seems to be made up
randomly.
of the same stuff.
It
Oh,
didn't
doesn't
happen randomly. It happened
So it happened
because there
orderly?
was because there was a niche, because plants were able to photosynthesize We are closer related. We're fungi. We are a reaction to them.
Well, it's anatomically
mushroom.
incorrect to say that we are fungi. Yeah, I was going to say.
But
I mean,
What do you mean it's
that's fine.
No, we're genetically closer to fungi than we are to plants.
Sure, and I don't know that any any biologist that would say we are fungi, but
I never said
I
we're
guess that's
fungi, unless we're.
you did.
It's fine. It's not, that was not relevant to the argument. But
I get you. Yeah.
Unless the cordyceps virus has suddenly infested us and we are playing Last of Us. In that case, we are fungus.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that accounting for this idea of like we are random bits of matter that somehow have the emergent property of consciousness. That seems to breed more questions than it does answers for me. But I appreciate you answering the question.
Okay.
Well, so like, why is that? What do you mean that brings more questions than answers? Because when I think of in science, what makes something a rational hypothesis is it's only using combinations of principles and particles and laws that have been verified to exist independent of our imagination. And what makes something irrational is when you add any principles, particles, or etc. that have not been verified to exist independent of our imagination. So invisible sky daddies outside of space-time, who's all powerful, all knowing, all loving, etc. That makes no sense.
Sure.
That adds infinitely many questions that have no basis in reality. We're saying
sure
evolution,
Yeah.
natural processes, things that we can demonstrate and test that have made novel predictions and are the consensus in neurology, biology, cognitive science, philosophy of mind, because it's what all of the evidence supports. That seems to answer more questions than any other possible explanation. So I don't know what you mean when you say the random chance naturalistic hypothesis is somehow has more questions than a supernatural hypothesis that has no basis in reality.
Well, because I think that the naturalistic explanation starts with like matter as an eternal, or at least like coming from some type of eternal naturalistic process that has no order to it, and then somehow creating an order, which is I think an extension from the other person saying like, you know, there's function there, and that there is a process that is ordered. Once you get to an ordered process and then start saying, well, an emergent property of this ordered process is now consciousness, which is matter that thinks about itself.
Well, I wanted to go to that first part.
Working back for
the first part, it seemed like you were saying that randomness can't produce ordered processes. Like that seems to be the big.
I didn't say that. No.
Well, so what would be your problem with saying yes, there are random processes in nature, and they produce ordered processes like minds? What's the problem there?
I think the assumption there is that a mind is just, or consciousness is just a subset of physical.
Can I get you there?
I think it's a subsection, or sorry, it's that emerging consciousness is somehow just a product of substance. That's kind of seems to just be an assertion rather than we see that happening like that all the time.
So
naturally.
the emergence of consciousness, so we'll go all the way back. The Big Bang, only hydrogen, helium, a little bit of lithium. After it went out into the universe, the hydrogen collected into balls that we now have our tier 1 stars. The universe came to light. Those eventually died and they went supernova, spreading their guts everywhere. Inside those supernova were all of the higher elements, the entire periodic table. From tier 2 to tier 3 level solar systems, of which we are, you finally get solar systems that have rocky planets. And so you get stuff that have things like Earth. Now that we have things like Earth, you start to have life. Life, for as far as we can tell, formed as very early, 4.5 billion years ago, how old our planet is. And so you have these single-celled organisms. For 2 billion years, all you had was single-cellular life, up until what I call the mitochondrial revolution. An organism ate another organism, and that organism... Yeah, well, I call it that because very specifically, it is what gave birth to bigger organisms. What happened is one organism ate another, and instead of it dying, it provided energy for that other organism, and it has had a symbiotic relationship ever since. We call the symbiotic relationship mitochondria, and they have a completely different genetic faculty than our own. We have two sets of DNAs. This has happened a third time in plants. Plants have 3 sets of DNAs. They also have chloroplast. And so after plants dominated the earth and they were able to just make this oxygen type of planet, you then have niches. You have other niches. And what were these niches? We're back here where we have fungi and we have conscious organisms.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, like that is a excellent narrative that doesn't answer the question, why is consciousness an emergent property, or how is it that consciousness is an emergent property of the universe? I don't think that.
Have a problem?
I think the reason that we get, I think the actual objection that I have is that what we do see is a lot of good evidence for evolution. We do see a lot of good evidence for allele frequency variation and speciation. What we don't see is a lot of good evidence for emergence of consciousness, like an understanding like that is an actual process that happens naturalistically. I don't see any evidence for that.
Do you see any evidence for an alternative?
I do, yeah.
What?
God.
Okay, so where is this evidence for God, and where is the evidence that God created consciousness? Because I've never seen any of that in a lab. I've seen particles in a lab. I've seen novel predictions.
Yeah, sure. You're not going to see that.
Right. So,
Yeah,
so
I wouldn't
here's the
expect
question.
you to see God in a lab.
In a lab, scientifically, all of the things on the naturalist side have a basis in reality. They have evidence. We have evidence that consciousness can evolve, that can emerge.
Yes.
We don't have evidence God exists. We don't have evidence God can create consciousness. That's just a hypothesis. You've made up a story, kind of like what you were claiming Amy did. The difference is that Amy's story has a basis in novel testable predictions. Yours has none.
Sure. Well, what I would definitely say is that yes, there is evidence that God exists. There's not scientific evidence that God exists. I think that you're trying to say that the only type of evidence is scientific, and where it's not like scientific, you can if you just deny everything outside of what you call science.
You tell what is it? What is the evidence?
Yeah, anecdotal. It's anecdotal.
Okay, so the reason we don't accept anecdotal evidence is because it doesn't work. We demonstrably proven anecdotal evidence is not evidence of any kind. It fails.
Well, it definitely is evidence. It's just not scientific evidence.
No,
I think you need to know the difference.
It's not evidence. So anecdotal evidence can't differentiate.
Well, it definitely is.
No. So anecdotal evidence can't differentiate imagination from reality. Therefore, it's only evidence you had something in your imagination. It's not evidence anything exists in reality.
So you would say that the entire field of psychology or this entire field of sociology doesn't actually work on any type of evidence.
No, they
based on
so personal experience is evidence something happened in your mind. Psychology is stuff in your mind. So psychology is perfectly happy with this. You're claiming that there's something outside of your mind. Now, psychology would not agree with that. Would not accept that. Nothing in psychology says there is a thing that you had outside of your mind. That's not a thing psychology does. So the field of psychology is in your mind. And you're saying there's something.
Well, actually, the field of psychology isn't just outside of your mind. It's actually perception and effects that definitely go outside of your mind. And the other thing that I would just point out here is that, yes, anecdotal evidence is something that sociologists and psychologists work with all the time.
Wait,
the way that they get around this is statistical. Can I finish right here?
You didn't understand my point. So I think you're
I do.
You don't.
Can
so let me finish.
Can I just finish my sentence and then I'm really happy listening?
Well, I'd like to get back on track. So here's my point.
I'd love to too, but I just
stop talking or I'm going to.
if you don't want to
stop talking, I'm going to mute you.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, you have a good day then.
Bye. So, evidence of personal experience cannot be used to justify new ontologies. Like if you go to a psychologist and you say you saw a unicorn, that is not evidence unicorns exist. It doesn't work that way. In order to show unicorns exist, you need to do it scientifically. DNA, fossils, some kind of novel testable predictions. Going to a psychologist and saying you had a personal experience of a unicorn or Bigfoot isn't evidence Bigfoot exists. And no one thinks it is in any of those fields. So if all you have is personal experience, you have nothing. Anything else? Evidence for God.
I also don't understand.
Oh, fuck. I got the stage. So like
Oh,
we were
welcome,
discussing it in
Jay.
the text chat, like there's schools of thought that the self is the only God, so I don't really see the point of the argument. You're just kind of rejecting divinity as a first principle, which I think leads to a worse world. Because seeing like a divine spark or spirit across all of humanity or all life, I think is positive for society. The argument I was gonna make against you guys is that my religious first principles that me carry weapons in various countries, but you guys just get to be equally oppressed under the government of God.
Get somebody who's actually serious would be great.
Well, I hate the is type of equations because you're saying self is God. I don't understand what you get out of redefining it that way. How about just get rid of God and use the word self? But welcome, Garfad.
Alan, how are you? I have a question. Is there something wrong with being a theist?
No.
And
Okay.
I would disagree only slightly because I don't think it makes you a bad. I think when you have wrong beliefs, it could make you have a lot of baggage. And so, if you're a Christian, if you're a Jew, you're a Muslim, you come with a lot of belief systems that could make you extremely more tribal than you would be if you weren't in them.
So does that mean that there's nothing necessarily right about being an atheist?
Right. There's right and wrong or not based off of personal position. So the only thing that I think would be wrong is if you think you're a theist and you have evidence of a God. Then I'd say you're wrong because you don't have evidence of a God. If you're just a theist and you believe because you want to believe, yeah, it's perfectly fine. I have nothing to say against you.
And I would also fight to have everyone be able to be the religion of their choosing. I don't want to do it by force, also. I want it to be by convincing.
And this Church of the Best Possible World, is that your work?
Yep.
Partially?
Yep.
Okay. There's a paragraph in here about wanting to be if you would like to be a child in a morally objective world, you can limit your intelligence so that you can be a child.
Sure.
Does that mean you're into like the ABDL stuff?
I don't know what that means.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for your time.
Yep.
Welcome, Matthew.
Cannot hear you.
Oh, he says, sorry, my mic isn't working.
Try refreshing. JJ asked, it is morally as bad not to care whether a thing is true or not, so long as it makes you feel good, as it is not to care how you get your money as long as you have got it. It doesn't make any sense.
Is this working?
Yes.
You're very quiet, though.
Yeah. I'll just be back in like 10 minutes.
All right.
Just go on with that.
All right. It is morally as bad not to care whether a thing is true. Like, I don't care the number of grains of sand on Alpha Centauri. So it doesn't make sense to say that it's as morally as bad not to care whether a thing is true or not. Like, there are lots of things that are true and that no one cares about, whether or not it's true.
You would think, though, that they'd want this to be one of those true beliefs that should have like a mound of empirical evidence.
I think I would need more context, JJ. I don't, because it's a Carl Sagan quote. He said, I would need to know what he was saying it in reference to, because I don't think Carl Sagan would disagree that there are lots of true things that no one cares about. Like, no one is interested in whether or not it's true that there are 2 billion grains of sand on Alpha Centauri.
But just to see if I can raise the spice level, Moses did not part the Red Sea, Jesus did not come back from the dead, and Muhammad did not cut the moon.
Moses didn't exist, so
Yes, that is true. It's hard to do stuff when you don't exist. Oh, let's see. I'm gonna click my thing, so prove it. For the Jesus thing, well, people can't come back 72 hours after decomposing. We always get like the guy who's been like asleep for a few days, and then they realize it, and he was never dead to begin with. That's not a miracle. Like someone that actually decomposed. I got someone once who said the Holy Spirit healed him. It unzombified him. That's pretty cool.
I think it's possible someone could rise from the dead.
Oh, sure. I mean, there has to be eventually technology, maybe somewhere out there, maybe one day here.
Well, I mean, like
But,
quantum mechanically, just based off of statistical probabilities, eventually
it could happen.
somebody can probably just rise from the dead. Their decomposition can reverse. It's
Sure.
unlikely.
But it makes it in an unprobability where we're not going to put it in a textbook kind of thing, where when we're teaching biology. They always harp on me for the gender stuff, and I'm like, rib woman. Please prove that women can come from the McRibwich, and we'll start talking about that.
Oh, I wanted to, because last time we got into an argument about evidence for the supernatural or something like, can novel predictions be evidence for God? And you said it would only be evidence for the thing that happened or whatever.
Well, I guess the way that I would frame it is that if someone was coming back from the dead, but they were saying that it's because of God, we would separate them out. If they're coming back from the dead, that is the thing that they have proven. The because of, I would actually need more evidence for.
Why would that be any different from neutrinos? We've never observed a neutrino. We say that we hypothesize neutrinos exist, and if neutrinos exist, there's hundreds of trillions of them that pass through the tip of your finger every second. It's a big claim, and we're saying that if this is the case, we can have a pool of argon, and every once in a while, one of the argon atoms will be hit and decay into a different atom because these things exist, and we can show that if we use the right goop, it'll create lines of bubbles when one passes through. But we never see the neutrinos, right? So how is that different to say that if this thing exists, even though we're never going to see it directly, it'll have this effect, and we see the effect in that particular test that we would expect to see. That's evidence of neutrinos, right?
I don't think it's the same thing. By just saying that first of all, we have good physics to back up neutrinos where we don't have that for a man coming back from the dead. There is no mechanism that would explain it. And so we're trying to find that mechanism. Just saying that the phenomena is happening is one thing. To then say that because the phenomena is happening, it's this, you then need other evidence.
Well, what do you think you need? So, like, let's say somebody from the future says neutrinos exist. I believe they exist. Here's how to test them, and he makes it right. Why would you need to have all of this background knowledge about physics? Why wouldn't that be?
I don't think that's the right example. Let's take the Jesus example. Let's say someone is saying that they came back from the dead, and so that actually means that they are the son of a god. It wasn't Jesus. Let's say it was Frank. Frank is saying he came back from the dead, and this actually proves that he's the son of a god. Do you believe Frank? If you can prove that he can come back from the dead?
I'd say it's evidence, yes. So I'd say, why do you think that's different than the neutrinos example? Because I think all indirect observation should be treated the same, whether it's indirect observation of neutrinos or indirect observations of supernatural sky daddies. If it can consistently make future predictions and get it right, that is evidence indirectly of the thing that's the cause that you're saying gave you the ability to make these predictions.
But Sarah's now coming over, and she's saying the only reason that Frank is able to regenerate is because she's the daughter of God.
That's fine. So, like, even if that's the case, it'd still be indirect evidence. Like, if they can do novel testable predictions that no one else can, and only their hypothesis has ever been able to do this. And they can do it consistently and reliably. That's evidence of whatever they say their hypothesis is.
I disagree. This is not good
Well,
evidence.
why? That's the question.
Not at
Why do you think that's different than any other indirect observation?
because it's just proving or showing the phenomena. You are not giving the mechanism as to why.
Like, what do you mean? How is that different? Saying God literally did this with his fingers. He used his supernatural
Okay.
finger and poked you.
Separate out for me. How did you able to make he wasn't able using technology from he was the son of a god?
Well, you can't. You can't do that for anything ever. So like neutrinos, could it just be aliens
You can't
messing
do
with
that
the
for
device?
anything?
Yeah, so like neutrinos. Neutrinos, you're saying that the line of bubbles in this this soup of argon is created by neutrinos. Well, how would you differentiate that from aliens using a technology to just create a line of bubbles to mess with you?
Once again, I don't see how this analogy goes back to a man raising 72 hours from the
Well, the
dead.
answer is you can't. So there's no way to show the difference between a neutrino actually passing through the pool of argon creating the bubbles and aliens just messing with the system to because they're bored and they want to mess with you. There's no way to tell the difference. They will both have the exact same results.
You're basically saying, at least from what it sounds, is we should just take their word for it. And that is very silly to me.
Or well, no, it's not their word for it. We should say if they have a hypothesis that can accurately predict the future and get it right consistently, that's evidence of the hypothesis. So we're not just taking their word for it.
Okay. How does saying they're the son of a god add to the fact anything about the resurrection?
Well, so if they said, I'm the son of God, and because I'm the son of God, I will be able to rise every time you kill me. So 3 days after you kill me, I'm going to rise every single time. Kill him, he rises, kill him, he rises, kill him, he rises. That's good evidence that, yeah, he's the son of God.
No, it's good evidence that he can rise.
Well, this is the part where I think epistemically that doesn't work. Because that would be like every time I see the line of bubbles, that's just evidence of a line of bubbles. It's not evidence of neutrinos.
I just think this is how con artists run games. It's just a guy saying, look, I have technology. I'm going to go in here and claim I'm God, and these fuckers are going to believe me because they're really dumb.
Yes, you could manipulate people if you could accurately tell the future, but that's irrelevant to the point here. Because the point here is you're saying that how would you differentiate the phenomenon, which could be caused by multiple different things? It could be caused by a son of God, could be caused by super technology, could be caused by aliens, which, yes, that's true. It could be caused by all of these different things. But that doesn't matter because everything in science could be caused by all of those different things. This pool of neutrinos or the pool of argon, the bubbles could be caused by an advanced technology. It could be caused by a con artist. It could be caused by aliens. But we don't think that's the case. We think, yeah, it's actually a neutrino. Why do we think that's the case? Because it makes novel testable predictions. It predicted the future before we knew it and got it right and consistently. And so even though it could be caused by aliens or technology or con artists, we don't think that's the case because it was able to predict the future, and anybody can verify this and get the same results. And so if anybody can verify this and get the same results, even if you don't understand why, then it's probably not a con artist. It's probably not aliens, unless they're really bored and just want to go monitor everyone in the world doing this and be like, okay, we're gonna mess with this experiment every time, just because we want to fool all of the humans. Probably not. It's possible. And so to say that if a guy can die and rise from the dead consistently, every single time, and he's saying it's because God does it, and you can test it. You can kill him, he'll rise from the dead. You can cut his head off, he rises from the dead. That's good evidence that whatever his hypothesis is true, because that hypothesis was the only one that predicted this, even though you could explain it in different post hoc ways. Just like, because that's the same with everything in science.
That just sounds like a fancy way of saying I'm going to accept it because he said so. I don't really have a reason for it, but he's able to do it. I am ignorant of the explanation, and so this guy is giving me an explanation. I should just accept it. I think that is a poor epistemology.
Well, do you know how a plane works?
I would say just as a layperson, but well, how does a plane work?
Right, so you're not an engineer. You couldn't literally build a plane or a spaceship. You would have no idea where to even begin with that, right? Like, but you'd say they think complicated physics is the reason this works, and they can make it work. It goes to space. You could go to space,
So
and you believe
let's
them.
take that example. If we were to say this vehicle goes to space, or therefore I am the son of a god, and we don't know how it works, we should kind of be confident in saying, well, I mean, it does go to space, or this plane does fly, and they're saying they're a son of a god. I mean, I don't really know any better. Maybe I should believe them if they're the son of a god. I mean, we are flying. It's a miracle.
Yeah, so, like, if there's take two different worlds. One, world A, complicated physics science guy says, "I can get you in a spaceship. I can build you a spaceship and get you into space." And the reason is because all of this physics stuff is governing the universe, and you don't understand it, but I can get you to space. He builds you a spaceship, you go to space, you're like, "Is that a good reason to believe the guy about physics?" Yeah, that's a good reason. Yeah, that's a very good reason to believe, yeah, this physics stuff probably governing the universe. Universe B, guy says there's this god, Sky Daddy Bob. Sky Daddy Bob governs the universe. Sky Daddy Bob is going to give me the magic powers to build you a magic spaceship that's going to take you up into space. You get a spaceship, you go up into space. Is that a good reason to believe there's a magic Sky Daddy named Bob governing the universe? Yeah, the exact same way. It's the exact same in both situations. You don't understand the physics, you don't understand the supernatural Sky Daddy Bob, but in both cases, this person is able to utilize whatever mechanism they're using to do this thing, which you have no idea how it's working. And as long as it's a novel prediction that we've never seen before, you're justified. That's evidence, even though it's not necessarily solid or the best evidence. It's evidence for the truth of whatever methodology they're employing to get the future prediction to work.
But we can learn about the mechanism. We can learn. So an aircraft acts upon four forces. It acts upon lift, gravity, thrust, and drag. That is a mechanism. It is an actual answer for why planes fly.
Right, but that's irrelevant because you haven't done any of that yet. So are you justified in believing the scientist guy who's telling you all of this stuff about the four forces? He's just saying it.
Yes.
You're justified in believing him, right?
Yes, that is an actual
Why?
expert in the field.
Well, so the Bob guy can say there are the four magic forces of the God power, the Trinity of the God power, and God is picking you up on his hands and lifting you to space or whatever. That's a mechanism too, and there's no more reason to believe that guy than there is the physics guy.
I really don't. I'm trying to understand you, but that just sounds like the conspiracy theorist logic. Like, we have evidence, we have experts in the field, we have physicists, we have novel testable predictions that we can run within physics. We can build different planes and models and see how they work. With the guy coming back from the dead, we can't do that.
Well, so this is the point I'm trying to figure out is what do you think the difference is in the two universes? Both say they can build a ship and get you to space. One is using physics and says there's all this physics stuff and he gets you to space. And so you believe him. That's rational. But in the case where there's the magic Bob guy who also builds you a spaceship and also gets you to space and tells you all of the complicated magic goo stuff that's equivalent, you're not rational to believe him, even though he did the exact same thing, has his own method with all the explanation stuff of the spirit goo. You're not rational to believe him, even though it's the exact same thing as believing the physics guy. That doesn't make sense.
No, it's not.
What's the
It
difference?
is the exact opposite. It is the mentality of a conspiracy. You shouldn't believe in the goo until there is actual empirical evidence. Once you have empirical, testable evidence of a mechanism, you have a theoretical framework of facts, then you should believe in it.
Right, but what is that empirical evidence? It's going to be like an experiment, right? Like someone sending you to space and being
Yeah.
able to get you to space. That would be empirical evidence. If this force exists, I will be able to use this force to do an experiment that will have this result, like sending you to space. And so for any experiment, you're going to start with a hypothesis. You're going to have a test you can do, like sending someone to space. And if you get the results that you expect, the person actually gets to space. That would be confirmation of the hypothesis. And this would be true whether or not the hypothesis was physics is real or Sky Daddy Bob is supernaturally lifting you into space. Either one, you're going to start with the hypothesis, make a test, confirm the hypothesis. And it doesn't make a difference whether that experiment is building a large hadron collider and seeing the right numbers on a screen or sending you to space. Those are both the same kind of thing. There's an experiment, a test, an expected result. Do you get the test result? Yes, that's evidence. And so I don't see why you think there's a difference here between whatever kind of evidence you think there's going to be is going to be equivalent to the spaceship example. You can just replace whatever experiment you want with the sending you to space and just switch those out in the example. And for the hypothesis, it'll be equally as justified to believe the physics guy as it is the magic spirit goo guy.
I disagree. One has evidence and one is just making a claim. They are saying, I see this phenomena and it must be this. The other is saying, we have a phenomena and we have tied this fact and this fact together, and it explains why something the theory of gravity explains why gravity works. The theory of germs explains why we get sick, and the theory of evolution explains the
Okay,
diversity.
say there's not a bunch of facts. Say there's one fact. There is only one fact, which is
If we only see a guy coming back from the dead, that is literally
forget the guy
only
coming
thing
back
we
to the dead. I
should
don't
say.
care about the guy coming back to the
But
dead.
but miracles are what I'm talking
No.
about. That is
You're not
that
understanding
is
my
what I
point.
care
My
about.
point is that understanding the miracle is no different than understanding anything in science at all. You can't differentiate these two because you think this class is a miracle. That's just an ad hom. It doesn't mean anything. Any phenomenon has to be treated with the exact same epistemic standard, whether it's a miracle or a physics thing. And so if you take
I
any
agree. I
fact,
think they're calling it miracles. I'm not the one. I call them rare events or things that they can't prove.
forget all of that. Say there's only one thing you know. There isn't this entire body of evidence of science. There's one thing you know, which is there's a guy, he says he can get you to space, and he says all this physics stuff. You know nothing else. There are no other bodies of facts. You know nothing. You can investigate nothing. You have no other data. He gets you to space. Are you justified in believing him?
I'm justified in believing he can take me to space.
No, in
Yes, if we
physics, all the
if he
physics
takes me
stuff
to
he says, like
space.
there are 4 laws of forces. Here's the gravity. You lose jet propulsion fuel, which is caused by friction and energy and all this stuff. Are you justified in believing all of his physics stuff? Is that evidence that his physics knowledge is true?
I don't know.
That's fair. But I would say yes. I would say this guy says he understands physics, and he says because physics is true, I can get you to the moon. He builds me a rocket ship, gets me to the moon. I think that's good reason to believe his model of the world. His model, physics is true, it works. He can make a novel testable prediction and confirm it. That's evidence of his model. And I think it would also be evidence of the model of someone who believed in a supernatural sky daddy. If they said, I believe in a supernatural sky daddy, and because there's a supernatural sky daddy that uses spirit goo, and I can channel the spirit goo to build a spaceship to get you to the moon, and he gets me to the moon, I would also consider that evidence to believe in his sky daddy. Would it be perfect? No. Would I want lots of novel predictions of each individual part that we could then test and show that the spirit goo can then be played with, and you can do all kinds of stuff with it, just like you can in physics? Sure. But the question is, in order to get a single piece of evidence of anything in the worldview, the first thing you need is novel predictions. And each individual part would then need its own individual novel predictions. But it would be equivalent for the spirit goo and for the physics.
I think I understand what you're saying. I still disagree. I still think it is separate from a phenomena and the sky goo. So imagine there was a sky goo that actually had the physiological property that it puts you in a bubble and it shoots you up. And they say this comes from God. Well, we can actually say, hey, the sky goo is putting us in a bubble. It's shooting us up into space. Shouldn't we believe that the sky goo is from God? No, we still should not believe the sky goo is from God. We should believe the phenomena, and then we should go and look after the mechanism. Welcome back, F and Matthew, though.
I cannot hear you. Do either of you have working microphones?
Yeah, I can speak. I didn't know
Go for
who
it.
was
Go
up.
for it.
Okay. Is it cool if I ask a couple questions about your moral system,
Sure.
Tom?
Go for it.
Okay, cool. So I was thinking about your prediction that we will begin to. I gotta mute Matthew's echoing. I was thinking about your prediction that we will begin to view nature as immoral.
Yeah.
Like when a boulder falls on somebody.
Yeah.
And I was thinking how like we don't use anthropomorphic language to talk about things like boulders falling on people. We don't say like fuck boulders, but when we're talking about cancer, we often do that. So like
We actually
say, fuck
do.
cancer.
So there's actually a lot of evidence that people do that, and they've been applying it to other things all the time. And there's a consistent trend of change. Like we used to never do that about animals. We used to never blame animals for things that they did. But a lot of the time as it progressed, we would see like an elephant that broke out of there was an example but given by Sam Harris of an elephant that broke out of a circus and then trampled like 40 people, and then they strung up the elephant to punish it for what it did, and they blamed the elephant as the evil elephant or whatever. People
That's in its free will book.
Yep.
I know that.
And so there are cases where we do start to attribute more personal mental categories to things that we don't typically see as having mental categories, like and this pattern has been continuing, like veganism and people who are hyper plant life conscious.
Right.
We see a transition into, as people get more comfortable and there's less harm from other people, the scope of morality increases to include those other classes that we didn't typically apply it to in the past.
Cool. Okay. So, I was thinking, so could you consider our use of anthropomorphic language with cancer as evidence for your prediction, or would that be like post hoc at this point?
Maybe. I have no idea what the cancer example is.
Okay. So I guess that answered my question. My next question is, I'm just curious about why you draw a distinction between physical and verbal abuse as far as what's moral and not. And am I right in thinking that you do? 'Cause
Yes,
I think I've heard you
sort of.
say that. Okay. Could you go into that a little bit?
Yeah. So, like, you have a right over your mouth to use whatever words you want. It's your mouth. It's your property. You should be able to have the right to use whatever words you want. And their body, like their physical body punching them, is not the same as saying a word that they don't like to hear. So there's a pragmatic limitation where we can't just like use Facebook and mute anybody who we want who's walking on the streets. That'd be nice to be moral if we could do that, but we can't do that. We can definitely arrest them for punching you, but not for calling you mean names. And so, because your voice is a part of yourself and you have a right to use your voice however you want, and there's a pragmatic limitation that we can't just put people in prison for saying things you don't want, there is clearly a difference between verbal abuse and physical abuse. Now, obviously, if you trap someone and force them to undergo verbal abuse, the trapping part would be kidnapping and you could arrest them for that. The verbal abuse part would be trivial compared to the kidnapping part. And so the physical restrictions are significantly more impactful on people than the verbal restrictions, and people have more of an ability to limit the verbal impact others have by like wearing headphones or leaving or muting them on Facebook. And so the amount of harm done, or potential amount of harm done, is significantly different in the two cases.
So in the best of all possible worlds, you could still cause psychological harm to somebody with your words?
If they consented to it. So like in the best of all possible worlds, you'll be able to mute anyone who you don't want to hear. There's just like on Facebook. There's
Okay.
mute, can't hear you anymore. So if they consent to listen to you, knowing that what you have to say might upset them, then yes, what you say could upset them. It could cause them emotional harm, but they consented to that interaction, so it wouldn't be immoral.
Okay. So, and if they consented, you wouldn't, in the best of all possible worlds, if they consented, you wouldn't be able to like trick them and actually say something psychologically harmful because they didn't actually consent to that?
Right. So if they're consenting to the interaction, they would already have to know all of the potential outcomes of the interaction. So like,
Okay.
you wouldn't be able to say, I'm going to tell you all these nice things, and you would consent to this interaction, and then you actually try to hurt them. Because since they didn't actively consent to that part of the interaction, that part would not be able to be imposed on them.
Okay. All right. I understand better now. So thank you. That was it.
Yep.
All right.
Hello.
Hey, I can hear you now, and you're loud. That's good. Do you have a question?
I think there's a lot of problems with the whole sort of account you just gave, but I was going to speak about the existence of God.
Sure.
But we can get on.
Either one is fine.
We can address either of them.
You can pick whatever you want to talk about.
Well, I guess so. We can. Can we do both?
Sure.
Or no?
Just pick one at a time.
Okay. So I think that a lot of the stuff you said is kind of strange. I mean, okay, your mouth belongs to you, and so you have a right to use it the way you want to. Your fist belongs to you too, but you don't agree that you have the right to use it the way you want to, right?
Yeah, you do. You just don't. If you hit somebody else, that's their property. Whereas your voice, as long as you're not using your lips to actually physically touch someone, is not hitting someone else. There's a medium called the air, and the air is doing that, which means the air is causing the immorality in that case. Your voice, and like if you swung your fists in your house or whatever, and you would have the right to do that. It's your house.
Okay, but the problem, like the reason why we don't believe people have a right to use their physical bodies any way they want to is because they can use their bodies to hurt other people.
Right.
So in the same way as you don't have a right to use your fists to hurt someone, you also don't have the right to use your words to hurt someone. You could easily argue that. And honestly, verbal abuse can be much more damaging to the human spirit and the human person than physical abuse can. So I don't really understand this like distinction you're drawing. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like, do you not think that words can actually hurt people? Or
sure, words can hurt people, not as much as physically hurting them can, but yes, words can hurt people. The difference is that you can put on headphones. So if everyone had a personal force field where they could turn on at any time they wanted to and stop you from hitting them, then there'd be no point in making punching illegal, because literally anyone could stop you at any time they wanted to just by turning on the force field. So if everyone had an automatic force field that stopped all physical interactions that weren't consensual, then punching wouldn't. Then you could literally have the right to swing your fists at the exact same degree that you can say your words. But since we don't have that yet, we have to place pragmatic limits on the physical interactions like swinging your fists and where you're allowed to do that. Words we can put on headphones, and I don't have to listen to you anymore. So we already have that with words.
okay, so are you saying that like I have a right to scream fire in a movie theater?
Yes.
Is that
I'm Christopher Hitchens on that one.
all right? Wow. Okay. Well, so like, we're on an airplane and you have children, and I could just go to the front of the airplane and scream Allahu Akbar, I have a bomb. That's totally fine. Like, that's not, I don't understand.
If we were in the best of all
Really?
possible worlds and we could literally just turn off any kind of words we didn't want to hear, yes, that would be perfectly fine. There are pragmatic limits because we don't have that yet.
Well, but even in the quote unquote best of all possible worlds, like your children are still hearing me pretending to be an Islamic extremist who wants to destroy
No, in the
the
best of all
airplane.
possible worlds, we could literally set the limits that no words could ever be heard by me that I didn't want to hear. So I would not be able to hear you.
Sounds like a nightmare world, man.
Why would that?
So-
That doesn't make any sense. That's like a Christian reactionary view. Like,
Because
you wouldn't
sometimes
be able
you
to hear
really-
people you don't like. It sounds like a nightmare. It sounds terrible. Like, what?
No, that's not even what I was thinking. Like sometimes you need to be able to hear things that you don't want to hear.
No.
Yeah.
No.
That's part of development as a human person and human being.
No,
You make
that's
mistakes.
wrong.
Sometimes you don't realize your mistake.
Stop. All of the development you can get consensually without being forced to hear things you don't want to hear. So that makes no sense.
That's crazy. So like
How
a
is
child,
how's that
like
crazy?
you don't have kids, obviously, because if you had kids, you'd realize that there are plenty of times you have to tell the kid something he doesn't want to hear for his own good.
Again, that's a pragmatic limitation. If you had logic, you would understand that you could simply just upload the information to the brain and you wouldn't need to tell them that. So that interaction
Okay, so
of forcing them, punishing the child is not a requirement to teach the child. You do not need to do that to teach the child.
So instead of speaking things the child doesn't want to hear, you're going to upload the things the child doesn't want to know about to their brain in this world.
No, those aren't, again, those are not the same thing. So saying things the child doesn't want to hear, like go to the corner or whatever, is not required to teach the child what it needs to know to live. You can give it information, like just start it with the information in its brain already. And then you don't have to do anything the child doesn't want. None of it. Nothing. You have to do nothing to the child that it doesn't want to give it all the information it needs.
I don't know how that's possible.
You
but
believe in
it
a
doesn't-
God,
we don't-
right?
we don't need
God
to
could
har- we
literally
don't-
snap his fingers and give you all the knowledge required right there. There you go.
Okay, all right, I guess. I mean, this is kind of a weird.
You believe in an all-powerful
thing, but
sky god.
Well,
This is not weird.
We'll go on to talking about the all-powerful sky daddy, right? So if I take the proposition, it is possible that Julius Caesar will be killed on the Ides of March. That's true, right?
What was the question?
It is possible that Julius Caesar will be killed on the Ides of March.
No, that is
Logically,
not
like there's no
possible.
logical
He is-
contradiction there.
Well, he's dead.
Yeah, so it's
isn't he?
possible, right?
Sure.
Yeah, he was killed on the Ides of March 15th. So yes, it happened. So it is possible. And even if it didn't happen, it would still be possible.
Right, still be possible.
So would you agree that it's possible in all worlds, in all possible worlds?
It's logically possible in all possible worlds.
Okay. So that means it's true. The statement that it's possible that Julius Caesar could be killed on the Ides of March is true in all possible worlds.
It's possible, yes. So, yeah.
Yeah. So it's true. So can something be true if it doesn't exist?
Sentences don't exist. So, for something to be
What?
true, the sentence has
Wait,
to
hold on.
correspond to reality. The sentence doesn't exist. So, yes, sentences can be true without existing.
Hold on, man. How can something be true if it doesn't exist, man?
Because sentences don't exist. Truth is whether or not a sentence.
What do you mean sentences don't
Shut up and listen.
exist?
So, stop talking.
Okay.
Stop talking. Words are abstract. Abstract objects don't exist. Truth is whether or not a series of abstract objects corresponds to reality. The sky is blue. That sentence could be true or false. The sentence doesn't exist anywhere. Nowhere does the sentence exist.
It does exist in a divine intellect. Yes. Okay. But look, I wasn't expecting for it to go off the walls this quickly.
Well, it didn't go off the walls. This
I
is
just don't
basic
understand
philosophy. You just don't know basic philosophy.
No, it's not
is.
basic
It
philosophy.
literally is. Stanford and
Nobody says that abstract objects don't
muted.
exist. Dude.
Yes, literally, it's in the definition of the object. Abstract objects literally don't exist. It's a basic philosophy. Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, Classical Logic, very first sentence, logic. It's a formal language. Truth is defined as that which corresponds to reality. Sentences don't exist. They're abstract objects. If they correspond to reality, they would be true. Things that don't exist can be true. Yes. Objects can't exist. And because truth isn't like tables don't true. You can't have like a true table, not a thing. You can have a sentence which is true. That table exists. That sentence would be true. But the table is not true. Truth is not an existing property. Truth is a correspondence between an imaginary concept and the reality to which it is intended to correspond. This is not hard.
Okay. So I'm a philosophy major, right? So I do know a little bit about philosophy. And I can't think of any philosopher who says straight up that abstract objects don't exist. Like nobody thinks that. You might say that they exist in a Platonic realm or in a divine intellect, or you might be
Literally
a purely
nominalism.
conceptualist
So
like
clearly
Kant.
you're not, because you don't know. You're failing philosophy. Google what nominalism is. Literally, abstract objects don't exist. It's like one of the leading positions in philosophy. So if you don't know that, you know nothing about philosophy.
And also, don't know how to prove God exists. Not that many of the theists. Send love to you. Anyone out there that wants to come and prove a God?
No, I didn't get mad and kicked him. I kicked him because he was clearly an idiot. If he studies philosophy, then he should know what nominalism is. And one of the major views of nominalism is abstract objects don't exist. Anybody else? Oh, I still have him server muted. 1 second.
I think he's new to the channel.
Okay, can I be heard? Am I coming in loud and clear?
Yes, unfortunately.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
Do you have
see
an
what I mean?
argument
Amy?
for God?
You should compare with someone else rather than T-Jump. So yeah, I got evidence for
Go ahead.
for God.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So there's many different evidences for the existence of God, and I'm sure you know some of them already since you constantly argue. Like, for example, the cosmological argument. That's one evidence for God.
How is
the teleological
stop, let's
argument?
just go with one at a
another
time. So the cosmological argument, everything that begins to exist has a cause, the universe began to exist, the universe has a cause. That's great. How does that indicate a God as opposed to a naturalistic cause?
This argument focuses on the origins of the universe. It posits that since all things have a cause, that there must be a first cause.
Sure.
Or an uncaused cause, which is identified as God.
Well, no.
And we also have the teleological argument.
Wait. You're jumping. So the question here is, how does this argument indicate God? This argument indicates our universe has an uncaused cause, which is a quantum field, not a God. So why do you think this argument indicates a God as opposed to a quantum field?
Yeah, because we see that with regards to things being caused, we can see that things are caused by intelligent agents. So to say that something is caused by that which is not an intelligent agent, you would have to go ahead and justify that
That's
claim.
not true.
Well, no, he's right there. He's right there that we'd have to justify that claim. But the
No, not the justifying claim. Just that things can happen when, like, an asteroid will fall to space, and there's a cause of it, whether or not it's a mind or not.
Well, you're making a claim that things can happen without minds, but if you don't know the ultimate behind the things itself, then you don't know that a mind is not behind it all. Now, there's also the teleological.
Stop. We're going to stick with one argument at a time, so don't bring up the teleological argument yet. Your claim was that minds cause things. The only evidence we have is that minds, which are emergent properties of brains, can cause things in space-time after physics causes chemistry and chemistry causes biology and biology causes brains. There is no evidence intelligence can exist outside of emergent properties of biology. None. You're just making it up.
Oh, sure. That's why I posted the video earlier that you guys didn't want to discuss.
I'm happy to discuss it. I'm just not going to watch it. What is the evidence?
Yeah, of supernatural activity. Now, like for example, many people they were against UFOs and stuff and say, "Oh, that's just ridiculous," you know. But now we see that even the U.S. military is claiming that yes, these things we've been seeing these things for decades, and
what does
and so they do exist.
Stand for in UFO?
So unidentified.
Right. So
yeah.
so there's an unidentified object that is being seen by something, usually like air fighters or whatever, and we don't know what it is. That's the full stop. So like Thunderfoot goes through all these cases many times on YouTube. They're mostly birds that are just being seen from weird angles. There's nothing supernatural about any of those. So the government admitting that there are unidentified flying objects is not the government admitting there are aliens or supernatural. That is not a thing the government has admitted.
Well, no, I didn't say that.
Okay.
What I'm, if you allow me, let's have a conversation. Say that. So you're refuting something I didn't even say. So with regards to UFOs, which I agree are known as unidentified flying objects. They also call them UAPs, but I think they changed the term UAPs to something else, but it's still called UAPs. Oh, anyway, in any case, for a long time, the U.S. military was going ahead and saying, no, none of this stuff is actually occurring and so forth and so forth. But now recently, they're admitting that, yes, we've been seeing these things for decades, and they even have video of them, like the Tic-Tac video. I don't know if you guys have seen that.
How does this relate?
And these things, they admit, yeah, so well, I'm getting to that. They admit that these things are capable of traveling faster than their own jets and anything that we have. We don't have anything comparable to this.
No, that's wrong.
There doesn't seem to be any.
Just to clarify, that's not the case. So these objects appear to travel faster because of backdrop and effects. They don't actually travel faster. None of these UFOs have actually been confirmed to travel faster than anything in U.S. flight. It does not exist.
Actually, if you take a look at what the whistleblower has said, and with regards to what the pilots themselves had said, with regards to the Tic Tac video, they weren't able to keep up with the Tic Tac, the flying object that's the Tic Tac, and they admitted that this isn't the only time that they've seen these things.
No, I understand. I've seen the video.
Fast,
that video has been debunked, so that can be fully explained by things traveling perfectly normal speeds, just closer than what they expected. So there's nothing about that implies
How has the
anything.
Tic Tac video been debunked? I didn't know.
Google Thunderfoot.
How has it
Google
been debunked?
Thunderfoot Tic Tac videos.
Thunderfoot.
Yeah.
So
Phil
what
Mason-
was in Thunderfoot where they debunked it?
He showed that you can reproduce the exact same effects with nothing traveling faster than known physics. Nothing violating any of the known physics in any way can fully explain all of those videos, which is the consensus.
How did they split the Tic Tac object?
You'll have to go check the videos, but that's the consensus by the government as well. So the government fully admits this is fully understood by physics. There's nothing outside of physics implied by any of these videos.
Oh, well, that's strange because everything that I've seen on this, all of the, even what's his name? What's that scientist? DeGrassi or whatever?
Neil deGrasse
Whatever his name
Tyson.
is. He admitted that if this is, we don't have anything comparable to that. But he still admits, like you, that it's unidentified, and that we don't know that it's aliens or anything. But he himself admits that we don't have anything like that, and the military personnel that I've seen in the speaking about it, they've admitted that we don't have anything like that. So I don't know what you're referring to.
Yeah, it's not a thing.
So,
It's just a natural phenomenon. There's nothing special about it. It's a visual illusion. It doesn't exist. There is no machine that does that. It doesn't violate anything in any part of physics. But what are you trying to get to? Like,
it's a visual illusion. They have other videos of this?
yes, it's a visual illusion.
Of this video?
But what are you trying to
visual
get to this? So yes, all of the UFO things has been completely 100% debunked. There's nothing to take seriously. None of the scientists take it seriously in any field. It's not a thing we care about. But what do you?
Now, if it's an illusion, why was it showing up on radar?
Because that's how it works. That's how illusions work. They can work against radar.
Illusions show up on radar?
Yes, they do.
I didn't know that.
There are
That's
false
amazing.
positives in radars all the time.
Okay.
What are you?
Okay, so
all of the UFOs
so anyway,
have been
with
completely
regards
debunked. What
to-
is the point you're trying to get to with this?
Well, no, they weren't
They were
debunked
100%
because the
debunked.
military is still saying that there's
The military has
So
100%
anyway,
admitted there's
with
nothing
regards,
special about any of these.
no, I
The
just
military has
pointed
100%
to
admitted there's
military
nothing special.
individuals that
No.
admit that
The
these
government
things.
has admitted this. There are some crackpots who think there's something special. No one in physics takes this seriously. No one in the government takes this seriously. It's all debunked. But what are you trying to use this to indicate?
No, I listen to. There's
I don't
physicists
care.
that
This
come
part's
on a certain
debunked.
radio
This is
show
not something you get
numerous
an opinion
times.
on. But what is the step?
Okay.
Go to the next step. What are
Okay,
you
well,
trying
let's
to use
disagree. Let's agree to
No, this
disagree
isn't-
on the
this
whole
isn't-
debunk.
It's like being a flat earther. You can be a flat earther and be wrong. I'm fine with that. But what do you get to the next step? What are you trying to use this?
So
to
anyway, so since the military is now admitting that they've been seeing these things.
Nope. Next.
But T-Jump, I have read like a bunch of these academic sources that all accept UFOs as being something real. I think they've ruled out the false positive part because I think there was like multiple radar detections and multiple sensor modes, not just visual
It was a bird.
sightings, which sort of like ruled out. What?
It was a bird. Check out the Thunderfoot video. It was a bird.
But yeah, I guess the question to him would be like, if UFOs are real, so what? Like,
that's what I was trying to. Like,
I was waiting to hear his next.
Skip to the next part. He just wasn't getting there.
I would like to ask the mighty T-Jump a question for somebody in chat because
What's the question?
they may have misheard
the question?
you. So did you say So did you say that sentences existed or didn't exist? And do you mean that abstractly or do you just mean that in general? Like I'm asking you to clarify.
Abstract objects don't exist. Sentences are abstract objects.
Okay, so they just don't exist, period. Yep. So that sentence that abstract objects don't exist to you doesn't exist. Right. Okay. No, that's it. Thank you. Starfish, you're wrong.
Objects exist.
Yeah.
Anything else? So if you just go to Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, abstract objects aren't in the range of existential quantifiers in the actual world. Hence, they don't exist. Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, abstract objects. Is that the first sentence? No, it's not the first sentence. It's in the section 2.
I think what I've seen in like the recent NASA hearing at court was like they don't accept that it's aliens, obviously, because we don't have evidence, but then they accept that they see this anomalous phenomena, which they still haven't classified. That's what I've seen.
I actually know what they are. Very specifically, it is the new Wendy's delivery service. You've heard it here first.
But yeah, you can just check out the Thunderfoot videos. The UFO stuff is all debunked. There's nothing serious there. It's equivalent to flat Earth.
But isn't the Thunderfoot guy just giving his own opinions, which is not really reflecting some like any sources? Like, has he cited any sources? Because I could not really find some actual credible source like debunking. I'm not talking about the vast majority of UFO cases, which obviously is debunked, but that small percentage of the cases that are detected on radar and like visual sightings, multiple.
The only thing required to debunk those is to show that the phenomenon can be generated by natural known phenomenon. If you can show that there's natural phenomenon that can generate that data, then you've debunked them being supernatural or super scientific. And that's what he does. He shows that you can get this data by doing these natural phenomena to these instruments and you get the exact same data. There's nothing special about it. It's an optical illusion, more or less.
But then did he demonstrate that if this phenomena exists, it can not just be witnessed by actual people, but it can also be detected by it can be
in the
visible
data
by camera, plus it can be detected by
all of it can be created by natural phenomena that requires no special data at all. This is why no scientists take this seriously. It's not a thing in seriously taken at all.
Yeah, I want to check this video. So I Google, go to YouTube.
Thunderfoot. It's foot with 2 zeros, I think.
Yeah, I know this guy's channel. He always speaks against Elon Musk. That's how it's always done. Oh, busted. Okay, Pentagon officially released UFO videos busted part 1.
Yep, there's multiple parts. Yep, go for it.
So he demonstrates in the video that these natural phenomena on radar, and that they behave like aircraft on radar, like physical objects.
Yep. But did you have like a point
Because,
beyond that? What was your points for bringing up the UFOs? What were you trying to get to with the UFOs?
Yeah. So with regards to the UFOs. Oh well, go ahead, Warrior. You were just saying something?
No, I just said if UFOs are real, then what? So what?
He's asking the same question.
Yeah. So So see and this is in Congress, because if you listen to the individuals in Congress, they themselves, the military.
Don't, but skip to the
point.
If
this was what T-Jump was saying it is, then the individuals. Well, I just want to show, because I have to make my argument for the UFOs to make the argument for the other video that I just
I don't
posted
care. The
earlier.
UFOs have been debunked. What are you trying to indicate with the UFOs?
No, Catholic. Let's say for the sake of the argument, UFOs exist. Then what's the next point?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to go ahead and so the individuals in Congress, the military
I don't
individuals
want to hear
said
anything about
they're not
Congress.
saying that it's been debunked and that it's natural phenomena. They
No, forget
themselves
that
are
part.
claiming that they don't know what it is. And so anyway,
They
with
exist.
regards to the video that I posted earlier, the connect
I
between them.
don't care about Congress. I just want to hear arguments for God, not Congress.
I also want to know that if there are aliens, did they want to meet Jesus?
Jesus was an alien.
I don't know, maybe.
Oh my God. It all makes
By
sense.
the way, did you guys like see the recent the paper that was published on Hycean planets? Like I don't know if you saw that news. I forgot the title, but it was like they detected biosignatures of like some emission that can only happen by life or something.
I think it was water. I think it was water. I don't think it was life.
Wait, I'll show you the screenshot. I don't remember exactly, but
Did you want to try moving to the teleological argument? Like, try that one.
Yeah, I was about to go ahead and connect it to the video that I posted earlier. I don't know why
because you can't
moved me from
do
stage.
too much nonsense about UFOs and stuff that's been debunked that isn't wasted.
Well, no, I was moving off of the UFO thing,
Okay,
and
well,
I
just
was going
don't
to
say
connect it to the
UFOs
video that I
anymore.
posted
Say,
earlier.
no, don't. I don't want to hear about the videos either. Just do the teleological argument. That one's well away from UFOs.
Yeah. So anyway, you had said with regards to minds and so forth that it has to be physical, biological, and so forth.
Well, that's the only
So
evidence.
with regards to the video that I posted, earlier, it shows paranormal activity or alleged paranormal activity, just like in the past there was alleged UFO activity with regards to videos and so forth, and the military finally confirmed it. So now, with regards to the paranormal activity that you see in houses and stuff that are or abandoned hospitals, abandoned prisons, if these things are not hoaxes, then that would mean that since these things are behaving, in an intelligent manner, it shows agency. So that would disprove your claim that agency has to be physical.
Sure.
And so if it's not hoaxes, what's your best explanation for these
They're
things?
all hoaxes. There's no evidence of any kind of minds outside of brains.
No. I said in my question, I said if it's not hoaxes, what's your best explanation for this activity?
Magic leprechauns.
Okay, I thought we were going to have a serious conversation here. I guess this is how it's going to go
Well,
today.
no, because the argument
Anyway,
is there's no evidence of minds outside of brains. You gave a bunch of examples of supernatural stuff that's been debunked and is not evidence of minds outside of brains, which is the consensus in every field related to minds. And then you asked, well, what if it's not the thing that all of the consensus agree upon? So it's just an irrelevant question. So
yeah. Well, they're not seeing leprechauns, okay? So I don't know why you're saying Why do you say leprechauns?
well, no, that was the point of the question is there evidence for consciousness outside of brains? The consensus is all of those things that you mentioned, the UFOs and the supernatural, are all hoaxes. None of them are real. That's the consensus in neurology, psychology, cognitive science, philosophy of mind, all hoaxes. And if you said, well, what if it's not the thing all of the consensus agree upon, which is that it's a hoax? Well, then what's the second best explanation? Then you could just make up
Well,
whatever you
actually, the consensus, most people believe that these things are actual spirit entities. So the consensus is actually on my side.
want. No, the consensus
just
of
like most people
experts
believe
is that it's
there
a
is a
hoax.
God.
The consensus of experts is that it's a hoax.
Well, I don't know about this expert term because who's the expert on spirit beings. I don't think anybody's an expert except those that's actually, ordained, in the church and so forth because they perform exorcism and so forth. So we don't have any scientists that are experts on spirit beings. Therefore, they can't go ahead and say automatically dismiss this as not being spiritual.
So the way experts work is you have to have a field that's already made novel testable predictions and succeeded. And then once you have that field, people who can then make those testable predictions, those are the experts. For a new field, like if you're saying they're spirit beings, that would need to first make novel predictions and become a confirmed established field in academia. Until that happens, there are no experts because it's an imaginary field, like experts in Harry Potter, not a real thing. So right now,
Yeah.
there is no field of supernatural because there is no novel predictions that have ever been made by the supernatural. So all of the examples you listed do not provide evidence, which is the consensus of every scientific field that has been demonstrated to exist and is actually a field with actual experts. Nothing in any of those fields has ever been able to confirm anything about any of these examples you're given. Therefore, there is no evidence for any of these things that you mentioned.
What scientific studies can you point to where scientists have actually gone to these locations and done scientific analysis to see whether or not there is actual activity?
There's a bunch of them. James Randi did a bunch of these.
James Randi went to haunted houses?
Yes, he did.
Can you show me where he went to actual places where there was reported paranormal activity?
There are
and
lots
he
and lots of
actually
examples of
attempted
James
to-
Randi and the people he worked with going to these examples of supernatural investigators and showing that it was nonsense.
Great, then can you give me
You
that?
can Google it and
Can
find
you
it
give me an
yourself.
example? Can you post it?
You can Google it and find it
Oh,
yourself.
well, you're just making a claim. You're not going to provide the evidence?
Nope, it's too trivially stupid for me to take the time to do that. Do you have an actual
Okay.
evidence for God? Something?
Okay. So anyway, if these things aren't hoaxes in the video that
They
I
are
presented,
hoaxes. That's the consensus.
if it's not, that's my
Then it's
question to
magic
you.
leprechauns.
If it's not, then how is it that you've determined that it's magical leprechauns?
Any stupid, silly belief you can come up with is equally as good as any other stupid, silly belief. So magic leprechauns is equally as plausible as souls and sky daddies.
But that doesn't answer my question. How is it that you came up with and determined that it is magical leprechauns?
It does answer this. The answer to the question is anything you can make up when there is no evidence is equally as good as any other stupid thing you can make up. They're all stupid. So magic leprechauns.
Oh, I see. So you're admitting you're just making it up.
Just
So
like
you're
you
not
are.
actually,
Yes, just
yeah.
like you
So
are.
you're not actually giving it an honest, good-willed answer to my question.
That
So,
is
Amy, are you still there?
okay. You're done. You're done. Like that's literally an answer to your question, and you're just evading the topic.
So yeah, T-Jump, I did DM you that news article that came out recently, and the paper that was published on this biosignature thing that is generally only like happens by life, produced by life. But yeah, I mean it does not confirm anything yet, but it increases the probability that there could be some microbial life out there, I guess.
Sure, that'd be cool.
And I like that
And that would be
chart
good actually if they do confirm that beyond reasonable doubt. Then the point is that then we have the second evidence for abiogenesis, that it could occur frequently around the universe, and then religious people are going to get so mad. That is confirmed.
You have to spread Jesus to space bacteria.
Anybody else have arguments, evidence for God?
No one just seems to say, listen, I have just believed it because my parents have believed it. I just believe it because he found my car keys. I just believe it because I married into it. These are real answers that people actually are in religion for. But we get these deistic arguments because, talking to atheists. I get you, but it'd be lovely if you told us why you believe. Then again, come on in with the cosmological arguments.
And do you guys have you guys heard about this bogus institution, Origin of Life Research, which Professor Dave has tried to debunk, and they pretend to be actual scientists. There is a guy that T-Jump you actually need to debate. His name is Dr. Stephen Mayer.
I've
He
invited
pretends to be
him
very
several
smart,
times.
and
I got
and
Behe. I
rejected.
invited Behe on. He came on.
I know. I really wish you debate Mayer, because on many of his videos he pretends to be a guy that knows a lot about science just by, like, using a lot of advanced terminology, but he is rejecting the consensus, like when it comes to evolution and things.
Yeah, I've invited him on several times. He has not agreed.
There was a video where he talked with Michael Shermer, but the problem with Michael Shermer is that these people are very soft in debates. They don't go hard like you.
Yep.
So they get to talk over you, and it almost appears like they actually made a point when they did not.
I find most creationist tactics is to just say very silly things confidently.
Yep.
That's just
You think the world is six? Oh no, were you gonna say?
that's Deepak Chopra. It's like the essence of Deepak Chopra.
Yes, it is the woo-woo master.
It's filthy, filthy rich though.
Even oh yeah, I think
right.
a lot of these people get rich, I think, by selling books. I think he sells books.
Energy
And he
crystals.
sells it in huge quantity. He always talks about quantum physics, but then it is the quantum mysticism.
Yep.
It's funny how easy it is to just get some traffic on social media, like impress people and sound like you're actually smart, and then people just buy into the bullshit that you're selling them, even though it is not really based in science.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of people, like I said, are either born into it or there's a fear tactic as well, because there's always the threat of hell. I can't help myself. Here.
Hello. Okay. So, I can try to start with a argument for God, but I more just wanted to poke around in T-Jump's philosophy, epistemology, understanding, whatever you want to call it. So I think most people would say that saying that sentences don't exist would be a bit of a position that's impossible to follow up, because it would essentially be saying that everything that you have said doesn't exist or shouldn't be trusted, therefore wouldn't be evidence. So any kind
Google
of
nominalism.
rationality you would have, you
Google
just throw out.
nominalism.
Yeah.
Learn basic philosophy. Stop wasting my time.
Really? You're not even gonna, like, good faith?
Nope. If you're an idiot, stop wasting my time. I don't have no interest in debating with you basic philosophy. Google nominalism. Learn the basic philosophical decisions on abstract objects.
All right, I will, and I'll be back. I will, and I'll be back.
Can I ask you, Oracle? Oh, okay. I just want to know why he's a pagan. Like pagans, because the Abrahamic religions tend to just attack me for existing, but I just don't think that they have good evidence for their views either. So shots fired. I'm just sending love. Anybody else? God existing? He's supposedly, and it's always a he in these Abrahamic religions. He apparently is everywhere, so should be easy. Apparently he is the best hide and seek champion of the world. Of the universe.
So T-Jump, I did notice that you were streaming this to like 2 channels. Don't you think that you would get demonetized for that as well?
No.
For it being the same?
No.
No. Why?
It's still my content. It's not other people's on other channels.
No, but didn't you have trouble for that earlier with
No.
your main channel
By
where
taking
like
my debates from other people's channels and putting it on my channel. So it was streamed at someone else's channel, and I was copying my debates from other people's channels onto my channel. These are both my channels.
But that's where the problem actually is. Like I've for example, since I work with this a lot, I have experience, so I can tell you. So I have like multiple channels. So there are 2 channels in which I uploaded the content that was borrowed from the other channel, and even though it's my channel, I still did get demonetized for that. But again, there is a way to like avoid that. Like obviously, if your stream itself is not the exact same, like if you turn on webcam in one and if you turn off webcam in the other, then even though it's the same thing, the visual part is like different. So the point is these the like the algorithms, right? Like DeepMind algorithm, it actually scans the frames. So if the frames are exact duplicate, that's when it becomes a problem.
No, it's not. They're both mine. They weren't on someone else's channel first. If they're on someone else's channel first and you copy them over, then it would be reused content. If they're both yours, it's not reused content. It's yours.
Actually, that's not true. Like imagine you have 2
No,
channels.
stop.
You upload
Stop.
video
Literally, in the definition of reused content is using someone else's content from some other channels on your channel. That's just the definition of the policy.
I get that, but you need to try and experiment, actually.
I want to have a role play. What's up, Altangelo?
One.
Hey, you're very quiet.
Well, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Well, let me check if I can change my setup here.
Hacking the Matrix.
No, it's worse. It's significantly worse. We're hearing very robot-y buzzing. Lots of buzzing.
How about now? Is it better now?
Sort of.
Is it okay? So can I leave it like this?
Yeah, that's good enough.
Okay. Okay, so I will let you guys choose the topic what you want to talk about.
Why do you personally believe that a God exists?
Because it's the best inference based on the evidence that we have around us.
Okay, what sort of evidence?
There are many lines of evidence, beginning of the universe, laws of physics, fine-tuning of the universe, origin of life, information in genes, which direct the making of molecular machines, energy production, turbines, chemical factories, and then the complexity of life, the existence of consciousness.
None of those are evidence of God. All of those are explained by naturalism. Those are all evidence of naturalism.
Okay, have you an example of a machine that self-constructed itself?
Cells, DNA, RNA, lots of them.
Well, no, we have no evidence that this is something that has self-constructed itself.
Yes, we do. We have novel testable predictions.
Okay, I'm not aware. Can you explain to me where the basic building blocks to make the macromolecules of RNA and DNA, how they were selected without an intelligence, with foresight?
I don't need to. All I need is novel predictions, and we made novel predictions.
Well, I would say yes. We need an explanation to that.
I
Has
don't
any
care. I don't care.
prediction
Wait.
demonstrated? Okay, so
Evidence
make an
is novel predictions. The
okay. So you can
scientists
make
have
a
made novel
prediction.
predictions. You have not made novel predictions. We have evidence. You do not have evidence.
Okay,
And
so
I would
make
actually point out, just very specifically on Tangelo, what you want from us, I don't think that you can give to us. I do not think you can give an explanation for RNA. So you would just say a God. But if we were to ask for a mechanism for how God was to actually create life, you would just say, what would you say?
Yeah, well, we don't need an explanation of the explanation. If my explanation is intelligence is a case sufficient and capable mechanism to select the basic building blocks like phosphorus, ribose, and nucleobases to make RNA and DNA, because intelligence has been demonstrated to select things for distant purposes, then this is a sufficient case. Now, if you are saying to me that non-intelligent mechanisms have the capability to select materials for specific purposes, we can make a testable prediction on that and check if that is actually the case.
That's already been
But
proven.
guess
It's
what?
already been
Science
proven. But there's
science has actually tried that in the last 70 years. And all that science has come up with is with the answer that no, non-intelligent mechanisms are not capable of
But
selecting
but
materials for
Tangelo,
specific purposes.
God is not the answer. That's like saying when I say abiogenesis is the answer, you're like, well, how did that happen? We're saying God is not an answer. You need to explain how God did it. And until you can explain God did it, you really shouldn't be talking about abiogenesis or evolution or really any of these subjects.
Well, again, you don't need an explanation of the explanation, because then you would need an explanation of the explanation of the explanation. That would lead you to infinite regress, and in the end, you would never have any explanation of
No,
anything.
no, we don't.
So
We
it
don't
is
need
a
infinite
basic
regress. If you tell us
principle
the
in
sufficient reason,
philosophy
if we tell you the
that
sufficient reason
if
is
you
quantum
have
fields, then
the
it is
first
sufficient.
explanation which tops an alternative explanation, then you have a case.
Yes, if we say that quantum fields are sufficient, then what is your counter argument?
Well, has that been demonstrated?
Yeah, we can demonstrate it. It's literally been demonstrated. Casimir
Oh,
effect.
okay. I'm not aware of this experiment. Do you have a science paper or anything
Yeah, obviously
which
there are.
points
Just
to that?
literally Google. Yeah, Google quantum field theory. Literally, space-time emerges from quantum fields, and that is a consensus in physics. So that is the sufficient explanation because quantum fields are not caused by any prior event.
But this is what always
No, we are
happens
talking
when we
about
go back.
no, we are talking about the selection of the parts of the basic materials that are necessary to have nucleobases, which is the
Okay.
phosphorus, the ribose, and the nucleobase. So that has nothing to do with quantum physics.
Okay, wait. Let me clarify a bunch of points that you made earlier since T-Jump is currently muted. So you said that the universe is fine-tuned for life. That is false, because if the universe is fine-tuned for life, you would see life everywhere. Second thing, universe is still not fine-tuned for life because you have a lot of problems. You have calamities, disasters. We are adapting to the difficult conditions that we are surrounded with. So universe is absolutely not fine-tuned for life. We just happen to be in this particular spot in the universe where things are easier for us. Therefore, there is life. And in the similar way, when you talk about the materials required for life, these are emergent properties. It all emerges from physics. So when you talk about like the ocean, for example, or water, water is an emergent property
With
of
the
the
Gish
molecules of
thing, I
hydrogen.
would like to stay just to one
No,
topic.
hold on. I'm just addressing what you said. So hydrogen and oxygen comes together to give emergence to
You
water.
are
So
Gish developing. We were talking
saying
about
that
the
life,
origin of
saying that
RNA.
life emerges,
Then you
saying
went
that
to
there is some
fine
necessary
tuning,
material for life
then you
is
went
sort
to
of like
another
saying that
topic,
there
and
is.
then to water and
No,
something
my
else.
question is
So you
how
are
does water
Gish
emerge? How do
developing.
oceans emerge?
So you are
How do
so
oceans
you are
emerge?
Gish galloping, okay?
No, I am not. I'm asking you, how
Yes,
do
you
oceans
are.
emerge?
Yes,
No,
you
how do
are.
oceans emerge? They did not exist prior. They existed later. They are emergent. So life is also emergent.
Well, can you prove this?
Yes, obviously. Like, are you telling me that oceans existed at the beginning of the Big Bang? No, they didn't.
No, you are talking now about life. Can you prove that life is an emergent property of
Yes,
physics,
the
of the laws
predictions
of
made in
physics?
abiogenesis. The predictions made in abiogenesis is evidence for the hypothesis.
And there's good
Okay.
reasons why life has arisen on Earth, where within the circumstellar habitable zone, there's multiple planets that are like Mars and Venus and Earth. And we are able to have liquid water, we're able to get sunlight, and this is most likely why life arose 4.5 billion years ago. But my point would actually be, we have two models. We have abiogenesis and we have God. Now, I would say all of the experiments currently point towards abiogenesis. What do you have for a God?
Well, first of all, the abiogenesis is not a hypothesis which has been demonstrated to be true. Okay.
No, there are successful
So
predictions as
science has not
multiple
corroborated abiogenesis to be true.
That's what a hypothesis
for a
is.
starter. Okay. My hypothesis is that intelligence is a capable mechanism to instantiate languages, codes, then using these languages and codes to instantiate prescriptive or instructional assembly information to make machines, turbines, chemical factories, and so forth. And intelligence is also capable then to actually take an instructional blueprint, read the information, and transform the 2D information into the 3D object.
all that is
Hold on one second, Warzone.
Can I finish, please? Otherwise, I leave. Okay.
You
So
keep going on.
we know that intelligence is capable to instantiate and create information, and also irreducibly complex devices for specific purposes. We know intelligence is capable because I, as a machine designer, which is my profession, I do that as a professional with my intelligence. Science has not been able to demonstrate that non-guided, non-intelligent mechanisms are capable of instantiating this, and that's what we exactly see in life. Cells are chemical factories driven by information, which is stored in genes, and they direct the making of molecular machines, energy turbines, which is ATP synthase, and they make all the basic building blocks which they use themselves, and they even on top of that self-replicate.
Your argument is very weak. Your argument is very weak when you say that how can intelligence emerge from non-intelligence. That is like saying how can water emerge from non-water. Before water, water did not exist. It is an emergent property.
But you keep on also using this word capable, that intelligence is capable of doing this. And yes, it is also capable of arising naturally, which is what the majority of empirical experiments have shown. So not just saying, why is it capable? Why do you think that intelligence, and more importantly, how? How did this God make RNA?
Yes, it has never been demonstrated that intelligence or consciousness is an emergent property coming from mindless matter.
It's never been demonstrated a magic Sky Daddy exists either.
That is an affirmation, Amy, which you did, which is not corroborated by scientific evidence. That's a just so assertion.
All empirical evidence so far. I admit it is a hypothesis. They are working on it being a theory. However, so far all empirical evidence leads in that direction. But I keep on asking, Antangelo, how did God make RNA?
Through his power and his intelligence.
To his power and to his intelligence?
Through his power, using his power and information through his intelligence. In the Bible, it says that God spoke the world into existence. That means conveying information.
You know, that's never been demonstrated in a scientific lab, therefore debunked.
Indeed.
No, it doesn't have to be demonstrated to jump. We can make an inference to the best explanation. If you have a thing which is unexplained, you don't know, and you cannot demonstrate empirically how X came to be, and you have two competing hypotheses, then you will try to find out which of the two are the better, more case adequate explanation. And on one side you have intelligence, and on the other you don't have intelligence. If we know that intelligence is capable to instantiate instructional information, and it has never been demonstrated that non-intelligent mechanisms are capable of doing this. Then intelligence is the better case adequate explanation.
No, then explain to me how water emerges from not
is the path to the cause. So there are many things which we have no empirical evidence, but we can make an inference to the best explanation. And the origin of existence.
No,
is
Antangelo.
You look
There's no
around you,
evidence minds
and
can
then
exist
you
outside of
try
space
to
time.
find the best explanation for our existence.
There's no evidence minds can exist outside of space time. Therefore, there's no evidence minds or intelligence exist prior to evolution. So, nope, you're wrong. Anybody else?
If you have a better alternative, be my guest.
Yes, there's a reason that no one in science thinks your hypothesis is seriously, because it's better. You don't think it's better, but we don't really care what you think. What's Antangelo? What are your predictions?
About the creator?
We already explained that. RNA world beats yours in every way. But what is your prediction?
That has also to be explained. Well, my prediction is that the origin of languages, codes, and
that's not a
through these languages, the instantiation of instructional information, then the instantiation of information transmission systems,
Yes, one of your predictions are
and the
confirmed.
instantiation of machines is case adequately explained by
What's the
intelligence.
prediction? What's the prediction?
It cannot be explained by non-intelligent
That's
mechanisms.
not a prediction.
You can top, yes,
No,
it
it's
is. You
not.
can top my prediction by demonstrating
Antangelo, stop.
instantiating these things which I just described.
Antangelo,
right now.
for a prediction, what you need to do is you need to say, here is something we've never seen before, and this will happen because my hypothesis is true. That's what you need to say. You can't say, this won't happen because another hypothesis isn't true. That's not a prediction. For a prediction, you need to say, here's my hypothesis. If my hypothesis is true, here's what we will expect to see, which we have not seen yet.
Okay, so my prediction is that instructional assembly information comes only from a mind.
That's not a prediction.
Falsify, yes, it
No,
is.
it's
You will
not.
falsify my prediction, demonstrating that random, unguided mechanisms can instantiate a code and through instructional information
what I want
to make a machine or a turbine
Antangelo, this
or
is
a
not
chemical
science. This is
factory.
why everyone thinks you're a
If you
joke.
can
Antangelo,
demonstrate that,
stop.
Yes, you can. Yes,
You're
you
not
can
answering the
take basic
question.
molecules, put them in a
Antangelo,
lab,
you're not
and
answering the
test and
question.
see if they will start to interact and complexify.
Antangelo,
and
stop
instantiate all
talking.
these
Stop.
things.
This is why everyone in science thinks you're a joke. When we ask for a prediction, what we need is you start with your
But we
hypothesis.
must know
Wait.
what I am a joke. I don't know anyone that says that.
Everyone in science thinks intelligent design is a joke. But we need, when we ask for a prediction in science, what science means by a prediction is you have your hypothesis. If your hypothesis is true, here's what we would be able to expect to see, which we have not seen before. If you're already talking about stuff we've already seen, you're not doing science. We don't care. You're a joke. What we need is your hypothesis, the implications of your hypothesis, a test to confirm those implications. Telling us stuff we've already seen does nothing. So what is the new thing that we've never seen before that we will see if your hypothesis is correct?
Yeah, T-Jump, what we want to know if this physical universe
what is the prediction of your hypothesis? That's what I want to know. That's what everyone needs to make intelligent design not a joke. What's your prediction?
I don't need to have your restrictions about what is a prediction which you would be.
Okay, so you have no evidence. Good job. Next.
Oracle wants to come back in normalism. Oh, and we have Inesh
Hello.
actually. Welcome back, Inesh.
Hello. How are you guys?
Very good.
Hello.
How are you?
Yeah. T-Jump, I have a question for you. What would you accept as proof of the existence of God?
What?
I can answer for him. Novel testable prediction.
Yeah, what kind of a proof? Like, I would like to ask T-Jump, what would he accept as the proof of the existence of God? Like some miracle happening, some supernatural event, or some kind of testable proof? What he wants
Something that can be
exactly?
It took me a second to check the stream, but he is AFK for a second.
Yeah, like something that can be repeatedly confirmed. You make a prediction, that would be evidence for your hypothesis once you confirm that observation.
What was the question?
What would you accept
His
as
question
proof of
was
the existence of God?
Novel testable predictions.
Oh my God, I'm a
Novel
prophetess.
testable prediction.
Yes.
Yeah. What's my argument is anything that is measurable is contingent. So the ultimate necessity cannot be
Stupid.
measurable or observable or even perceivable in any way, shape, or form.
Why would something
That's
being
wrong.
measurable make it contingent?
Yep.
Because we can ask that particular measurement could have been any other way in all possible world.
What? That doesn't make any sense. Literally did not make sense.
Yeah.
So there could be a
That particular
necessary
measurement of
that is necessarily 1 inch long and necessarily could not be anything but 1 inch long, and it's 1 inch long in all possible worlds.
If it is necessary, there is nothing above that. So obviously, if there is some kind of measurement,
It's necessary. There's nothing about it. That just means there is nothing that's necessary. But
no. What I'm saying is, if there is any kind of measurable, observable, or even perceivable qualities, it must have some kind of limit. If there is a limit, then it is dependent on.
No.
Do you know
necessary does not mean has no limits. Limits is a stupid thing in apologetics that has no value. It's just an irrelevant term.
No. You know, principle of
necessary beings means it exists in all possible worlds. That's it. There could be a potato that exists in all possible worlds. It would be a necessary potato.
Okay, if there is a measurement attribute for the ultimate necessity, do you know principle of irrelevant differences?
Yes.
Yeah. According to that, if the difference is not relevant, then it should be in the same board. It should be the cause should be explained. Okay. If you have a limited thing and another limited thing, why that one limited thing is dependent, another limited thing is
limits aren't a thing. There's no such thing as limits. Limits is not a property. There's no property of limits.
Okay, it has certain measurable attribute like mass, charge, momentum, length, width, weight, whatever you call it. If it has any kind of such attributes, why that particular weight? Why that? Huh?
If it has properties, it's an object.
Yeah, why that particular weight?
It doesn't matter. It's necessary. If a potato,
whatever property,
it's necessary. You can have a property.
Whatever property
it's necessary.
If you have to distinguish, if you have to distinguish something from nothing, that something must have some definable attributes. We will if it's energy, we can ask why it's we can ask why this much, why not that much in all possible world. So according to Robert Kuhn's principle of irrelevant difference, you cannot if you have any kind of limits, that can never be a ultimate necessity.
I've already debunked this.
So
I've
Anish,
literally had Rob Kuhn's
definitely
on. Stop. There can be a necessary being is a being that exists in all possible worlds. If there is a 1 inch potato that exists in all possible worlds, the 1 inch potato is a necessary being. You don't know what necessary beings is. The principle of irrelevant difference has nothing to do with limits.
I will put it in a more respondents. Okay. I will put it in a more respondents way. Okay. Any kind of a limit has further explanation.
No, it doesn't.
Fundamental reality does not have further explanation because it is fundamental.
You can have a limit that's necessary.
No, this is written by Josh Rasmussen, whom we have debated, the philosopher Josh Rasmussen.
You can have a limit that's necessary. There's a necessary limit. Debunked.
Why that particular limit? Why
because
not
it was necessary.
millions and
because
billions of all possible
because
limits?
It was necessary. That's why.
Okay, how can you prove that with novel testable prediction?
I don't need
if it is ultimate necessity.
Necessity isn't something that exists.
No, you said
crap. It doesn't exist.
You said if I want to prove God, I will have to prove it. If God is the ultimate necessity, I will have to prove it with novel testable prediction. Okay, you are saying something is ultimate necessity from your side. How are you going to prove it that's the ultimate necessity with novel testable prediction?
Yeah, I'm not trying to show that it actually exists. I'm showing your definition of limits is wrong. So I don't think a necessary potato exists.
Okay. You are saying limits is just a language. It's just a word describing some like anything that is extended in space likewise depends on a composite of spatial division. to exist. So that's a kind of limit.
No, there are.
So
There's no
you will have to
limits
distinguish it
don't
from
exist. There
nothing.
is no such thing as limits. There are positive properties. Like it has weight and mass, length. Those are positive properties. They're not limited.
Yeah.
They're not limited. There's no limits.
No. Why? Okay. If that is a rock and the rock has certain weight, why that particular weight? Why not all the other possible weight and all possible
It's
weights?
necessary. Problem solved.
I just want to point out the
Okay,
rock
if it
has
is necessary,
weight because he works out a lot. All right, I'm gonna leave.
No.
now.
Okay.
Just kidding.
It is necessary. How are you going to prove it with novel testable prediction?
I don't need to prove it. I'm not trying to prove the rock is necessary. I'm showing your definition is stupid. You are wrong about limits.
Okay, forget the word limit. Any measurable attribute, whatever measurable attribute it has, why that measurable attribute is in a certain way and
Because
not
it's
all the other possible
necessary.
in all possible way. That's what I'm asking.
Because it's necessary.
Okay, if that's necessary, okay, so you are saying the ultimate necessity determine its own limit?
Yes.
How come?
Because it's
Nothing
necessary.
exists prior to it.
Because it's necessary.
If it's necessary.
This is what you're
It
not
is necessary
understanding.
means we
This
will
is
have to
what you're
prove
not
it with
understanding. When you say things with limits can't be necessary, you are wrong. Things with limits can be necessary.
No, if there is nothing fundamental than it, and it produces extended existence without compulsion from another or more fundamental source, so it is impossible. Like there has to be something fundamental than that for it to have that limit.
No, it itself, its necessary existence can determine its limits. So it itself is the most fundamental thing. There is nothing more fundamental than it, and it determines its own limits.
Okay, there is nothing fundamental. There is nothing fundamental than it. That limit could have been so many ways. So in all possible
No, it
world,
couldn't.
how
It could only be one way. It's necessary. That's what
if there is
necessary
nothing
means.
prior to yeah, but there are possibilities, right? If there are no possibilities, okay, no problem.
No.
That's why I'm saying the ultimate necessity shouldn't have any other possibilities. The ultimate necessity shouldn't have any other possibilities. If there is another possibilities, it needs further explanation why there are other possibilities, but why only one is chosen. One particular limit, one particular measurable attribute is chosen.
Right. So if it's 1 inch
The
long and that's
ultimate
necessary,
necessity
that means there's
cannot
no
have any other
other
possibility.
possibilities. So if it's 1 inch long and it's necessarily 1 inch long, there are no other
No,
possibilities.
there are possibilities. The measurable attributes that you are attributing to that ultimate necessity, whatever, if you are saying quantum physics, quantum fields, there are certain patterns. That pattern could have been so many.
No, they couldn't. That's what necessary means. Couldn't be other ways. Necessary means could not be other ways. Is this way in all possible worlds. Best in show. Thank you for the super chat. He says hi, T-Jump and Amy. Just saying hi. I hope Ix comes by. Also, what do you both think of the perfection paradox? God is already perfect. Why create anything at all? Amy, do you have thoughts?
Well, it is a little odd that someone who is perfect needs to create something. I also find it odd that his creations just mess everything up for him. The perfect being is apparently not able to make perfect creations.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. Like, if God is absolutely perfect, then nothing about him should need to change, right? So why does he create something and change anything if he's already perfect? If there's absolutely perfection of everything's perfect, then by changing something, he must be making it less perfect, right?
Yeah, you would think if he has to take a step towards doing something, that means that he's not perfect. I mean, I always joke that the Bible and all of these are just the God's book of big old cups, but...
Testing.
Hello.
Hello. I mean, from story one, he gets it wrong.
Well, I'm not gonna present any really arguments because I'm an atheist. But my question's for T-Jump. What is the best approach when it comes to precept apologetics?
Best approach to addressing them, you mean?
Correct, yes.
So presup entails that you can't have knowledge without absolute certainty. So if you can show you can have knowledge without absolute certainty, you've debunked presup. And presup also says that you can't have knowledge without God. So if you can show that there's a world without God where you can still have knowledge, you've debunked presup. So I'd say that in a world with no God and I exist, I can still know I exist, and I don't need God for that. Therefore, presup is wrong.
I see. I noticed you take a lot of approaches. One of them is you address their definition of knowledge, and apparently precepts have a different definition of what entails knowledge.
Yes, precepts say knowledge requires absolute certainty, and if there's any doubt, then you can't have knowledge, and that is a disagreement with everybody in science and philosophy.
What does that mean, a disagreement with everybody in science and philosophy? That doesn't make any sense.
The consensus in science and
you don't.
philosophy is fallibilism, that you can have knowledge without certainty. So the way they define knowledge, which is that you can't, it literally is, you can just literally Google it. Takes the Phil Survey's paper, I think. I don't remember which one.
I know, but it's a belief. You believe in materialism. It's a religion, and in
What
fact,
does
it
it have to
lacks
do
a
with
lot of
literally
explanatory
anything
power.
you said? So you said that it doesn't, like I said, that the presup definition of knowledge does not agree with the consensus of scientists and philosophers. That's a true statement. Scientists and philosophers use fallibilism, in which you can have knowledge without certainty. Precepts define knowledge as you can't have it without certainty. Therefore, their definition does not correspond to the consensus of everybody in every academic field. They've made up their own definition, which is what Duke's question was.
Well, I mean, their definition makes more sense than your definition. That's the point.
To no one who's actually trained in any of the relevant fields.
Why don't you argue on the merits of the ground of the argument itself inherently, rather than just go with consensus of whatever the scientists want to say because they have political.
That was literally the question. The
agendas
question
to
was,
fulfill.
did they make up their own definition? So here's the consensus definition used by the experts. Did they change that? Yes, they have changed that to their own definition. That was the question.
Well, I mean, scientists have an agenda. They need funding. They need social approval. So to simply say the consensus says something is a sufficient argument.
Precepts have an agenda to prove they're Sky Daddy, but I don't really care about agendas. Agendas don't make.
Well, no, I mean, you have an agenda to prove materialism, which is itself a religion.
Also, please use this politically correct name. It's Heavenly Father.
But so I don't have an agenda. Agendas don't matter in science. You can have whatever agenda you want. If you get results, you get results. So science doesn't care about
Well,
agendas.
the problem is you're not getting a lot of results. That's the problem. For example, when it comes to direct experience and intelligence, direct experience of emotions, direct experience of images in your mind,
science explains all that.
Emergent properties. No, it doesn't explain that. It doesn't explain the emergent properties are not explained by rearrangement of quarks. Okay.
Yes,
you
they
have
literally are.
rearrangement of quarks are rearrangement of quarks. It's a certain qualia or way of existing, as defined in, for example.
But Al,
I'm not a Thomist, but I mean I borrow some of their concepts. Thomism accepts that there are essences of things or ways of existing.
What does this have to do with the topic?
And to simply say that everything you see around you is a rearrangement of the same particle.
Bro, stop. Duke, did I answer your question about precepts making up?
Yes, you did.
Okay. Did you have another question?
I do have another question. This is kind of a basic philosophy 101 question, but another thing I hear from precepts is that circular reasoning, basically every bedrock thing that we know about, like epistemology, ultimately comes to circular reasoning. Is that correct?
No.
And if not, why not?
So circular reasoning, the argument they're trying to make is that you're using logic to justify logic. And so you can't, if your grounds of knowledge entails that you're using logic to get that grounds of knowledge, then it would be circular because you're using logic to justify logic. This is why I use the cogito. I think therefore I am. It's an experience. You start with an experience, a direct experience of the world around you, or whether or not it's real or not doesn't make a difference. But your experience isn't logic. It's an experience. It's a literally existing thing, like a rock. And you get logic from that experience. You describe the things around you. Like the TV is the TV, the camera is the camera, A equals A, logic. But you're not starting with logic, you're starting with an experience. And so it's not circular because you're not using logic to justify logic. You're using your experience to justify logic. And so you don't need to start with logic to justify logic. And so it wouldn't ultimately be circular when you start it with something like experience.
I also want to know from a precept how God makes anything intelligible. So far, the evidence that we have is that our brains holding minds that make us conscious beings is what makes everything intelligible. And so they just assert it, and they assert it with confidence.
Yeah, that's another thing I notice about precepts is they obviously start with their conclusion. I don't see how that makes much sense, but
it does not.
Thanks for answering the question.
Yep.
Have a good day.
All right, Lord, did you have a topic you wanted to bring up?
I was just saying that your religion of materialism does not adequately explain qualia and emergent properties, and theism explains it much better,
How?
whether
I
it be
just like that you're
solipsism
using
or what?
religion. I just like that you're using religion in a negative way. We should all use the word religion as a pejorative. I agree.
Well, here's the thing. You believe, for example, that other people than you exist. I mean, that's a belief. That's a religious belief. You have no actual proof that they exist independently of you. Okay, so materialism, likewise, with all of its assumptions, is a religion, and it does not adequately explain most of the phenomenon you observe directly in your mind or around you. It just doesn't. Theism is a much better explanation of those things.
How?
But that's not true also. We have an experiential, and not only that, we have a shared experiential that we can also peer review and thus take our bias out of it. Religion has none of that.
Okay, well, the problem is, for example, going with the theory that everything's made of a field or a quark, those things, according to the scientist, have a certain essence or property to them. Okay?
No.
So if everything is just a rearrangement,
Whoa, what do you mean by that? Because
they're describing
scientists
it.
don't use essence. Essence isn't a thing in science.
They're describing it according to essences, whether they admit their essences or not. They're describing it according to certain ways
You
that
can't say
constitute the essence of
scientists
the
say there are
material.
essences. No, that's a made-up Thomist garbage. There's no essences in any field of physics, in any field of philosophy and science. No, that's all garbage made up by things that are debunked. So that's not a
Oh, you can't just say it's made up,
Yes, you
because
can.
obviously many philosophers concede that there are essences in things, that
There are
there are
not.
certain things,
There are
defining
not.
attributes of things that define what they
So
are.
no.
That's part of the definition of the thing.
No. So again, that's a debunked philosophy and Thomism. Essences are pretty much universally rejected in every field of philosophy. Nobody really accepts them. So it's not a thing that there's lots of philosophers that no, that's not a thing at all. But what it
Well, then you're just saying that emergent properties come out of nothing, which is absurd. I mean, you
No.
have no explanation for the emergent properties of
No,
things.
things exist just
That's
fine. They don't have an essence. There's no essence of existence. It's just existence.
So there's no definition to a thing that defines what it is. I mean, that's what an essence
No,
is.
what we're trying to say is when you use that language, it's very close to, you don't believe in crystals, man?
What?
Yes, we believe in stuff existing. We just don't believe that it has some sort of supernatural or spiritual element.
Well,
Or-
everything you do is based on definitions of how a thing is. Okay, the
No.
essence of that thing.
No.
So if you're going to deny that, then you're sounding completely
Definitions
absurd
are
right now.
post hoc. We come up with definitions after we do things, not before we do things. So things we do have nothing to do with definitions, and then we make up definitions to explain the things we do.
Sure, but you still have to define the things that you've done.
No, you don't. Like literally, rabbits don't
You're still
define running.
limiting the thing according to their essence.
No,
Okay,
there's no
according
essence.
to what it
There's
is.
no definition there. Rabbits run with no definitions. They don't even have a language.
Okay, so now you're trying to tell everyone here that the mere rearrangement of quarks constitutes all the different kinds and essences of
There are
phenomenon
no
that they see
essences.
around.
There are no essences.
That's absurd. That's absurd. Just like saying that your imagination envisioning a house in your mind is the same as the neuronal synapses firing in your brain.
Yeah, that's called
They
identitarianism.
correspond to each other,
hold
but
up.
they are not the same qualia. They are not the same
So that's
thing.
called identitarianism, where they are actually identical. The same. It is a serious position in philosophy, but I don't understand how you think magic Sky Daddy outside of space time is a better answer here, because that doesn't make any sense.
Because it accounts for mind, it accounts for intelligence, it accounts for emergent property. There's just so many things that are better explained by having
How
an
does it
overarching mind.
saying Magic Sky Daddy explains X?
And
Doesn't
can I?
how does Magic Sky Daddy does X explain these things better than emergent property of novel testable prediction related properties that actually exist independent of our imagination?
Because the alternative is no explanation for the things, ultimately.
That's an
TJ.
argument from
The
ignorance.
alternative is you have no
That's an argument
explanation.
from ignorance fallacy.
All you have are correspondences.
That's an argument
That's
from
it.
ignorance fallacy.
We have no examples of the natural laws ever coming from a mind, and so we have no reason to believe that it's a mind until you show us some reason.
But we certainly have no reason to believe it's nothing.
Wait,
I mean, how are you going to? You have
We
no
don't believe in
explanation to
nothing.
offer.
Wait. So
you have no
let's go
explanation
back.
to
Let's go
offer.
back. Simply saying that if it's not God, you have no explanation is an argument from ignorance fallacy. That isn't evidence of God. That's just you saying I can only understand if God does it, and if God doesn't do it, I can't understand how it's done. So how exactly? The question is, how does your God explain how it's done? Forget the alternative.
Because God is a mind, and all these things are explained through mind, through direct
You
experience.
can't use the word explain. If I'm asking you how does he explain something, you can't say he does explain it. That doesn't explain anything. How does Magic Sky Daddy mind thing explain how minds exist?
You're also using
Because
mind.
he is mind.
Well,
because that is mind.
That's progress.
God,
That's progress. So
God is mind.
So how does mind exist? So let's say that I could just make up any property I wanted, pineapples, the pineapple property. And I wanted to explain how pineapples exist. And I just said, the universe is made of pineapples. There's just a pineapple-ness to the universe. Does that explain how pineapples exist?
There is no explanation for there's no need to explain God's existence because God is existence. God is every way of existing.
The question was, I see a pineapple. I want to explain how pineapples exist. Does me saying the fundamental nature of reality is a pineapple explain the existence of the pineapple?
You're confusing something whose essence is its existence.
Stop. Answer the question. I see a pineapple. I'm trying to explain how the existence
my
of the
answer is
pineapple.
it's a bad analogy.
This isn't an analogy. This is not an
pineapple
analogy.
is a certain way of
This
existing.
is not an analogy. This is a direct question. I see a pineapple. I'm trying to explain the existence of the pineapple. Does me saying pineapple-ness is a fundamental part of the universe explain the pineapple, yes or no?
It's a bad analogy. So I'll say no. I'll say no.
Good.
But it's a bad analogy.
Simply saying that there is some property I see, and then saying that this property is inherent to the fundamental nature of reality is not an explanation of the property for any property of any kind, no matter what, including
But God is the ultimate explanation of everything. So
that's
I don't
your
understand
nonsense
what you're getting
garbage.
at.
But that doesn't say anything. So if I say the magical pineapple essence is the ultimate explanation of everything, has that now made this a better explanation of the pineapple?
NL, before you answer that, can I show you why God is not an explanation for anything? If you get into a car accident and you ask the cop, and they come to you and say, what happened? And you say, well, God. And then you go home and your wife asks you, I was in a car accident. And you go, oh my goodness, what happened? And you say, God.
Yeah, again, these are bad analogies because we're dealing with the properties of things. That's a different thing than what happened in time and in an event. Series of events in time.
The ultimate explanation of everything is the short.
No, he is, because everything is a limitation on his omniscient conception. So
if you get into a car accident and you want to understand what happened, you could say God, and that's a perfect explanation of the car accident.
Well, ultimately, it's from God, but you're confusing a series of events, a temporal series of events, to the properties or essences or explanations or definitions of things proper.
So he's not.
Those are two separate issues.
Explanation of everything. He is not the ultimate. He's
of course he
potentially be an explanation of some things, but he isn't an explanation of all things because he doesn't work in that.
Well, existence explains itself. I mean, existence just is. There is no explanation for existence, and existence is his essence. He exists in every way conceivable that you can prescribe a limit to. He's the unlimited existence, so
But
he
Al,
explains all the limited ways of existing.
if you say that, why can't we just say the universe exists, it has always existed, and we don't need an explanation for it?
Well, because again, materialism is inadequate to explain so many phenomenon that you directly experience and observe. Like I was saying, it's an inadequate religion. You have a belief in materialism
And religion is
that
bad.
is not backed up by all the available
Well, so this is
data
where I
and
wanted to go with my
evidence.
previous question. How is saying consciousness is a fundamental essence of the universe a better explanation than saying consciousness is an emergent property of the universe?
Because there are too many things in the universe that can't be explained unless the universe is, I guess, idealistic or conscious.
That makes zero sense.
For example, the firing of the synapses in your neurons in your brain, there is no way to get from that to the image of the house or the image of the lake you may have in your mind. Okay?
Sure there is. Magic.
That is a leap that cannot be explained except via mind.
It can be, yeah, it's explained by magic. There's a new physical law of the magic law that does that.
All right. Well, I just think.
Well, so here's the thing:
you guys are trying to explain.
Made up a sky daddy that has no evidence, and you're saying this is a.
But it's not made up. It's based on direct observation and experience that explains the phenomenon you observe mentally
you're not
around
understanding. When you claim something is an explanation, you have nothing more than your brain farted this out and says it did X. Now, I can make a different brain fart that explains it and says this did X, like magic, new magic, physics law. And so now we have two equivalently farted out ideas that are asserted to explain X. But if I ask, well, how does this thing you farted out of your brain actually explain anything? You're going to say, oh, he's just the ultimate explanation of everything. You've given nothing. This goes back to my pineapple example. If I say I want to explain the pineapple, and I say pineappleness is an essence of the universe, and it's just the ultimate explanation of everything, does that explain the pineapple? No, that's not an explanation of any kind whatsoever. It's just something you farted out in your brain. And so this thing you keep
No, I didn't fart it out. That's the problem. I didn't fart it. It's mind.
How do you
accept mind? You accept the reality of mind. You accept the reality of emergent properties that are not based upon pure particulate explanations. You accept because you deal with them all the time. You're implicitly assuming them all the time. So to say that, therefore, we need a mind to explain these emergent properties, these ways of existing, these definitions, is not a leap. It's just accepting your mind.
No, you're not explaining
the mind that is behind the universe itself.
You're not explaining mind. What you're saying is, here is mind. It's mysterious. No one can explain it. I'm just going to say it's fundamental with no explanation. That's what you're saying. That's all you're saying. You're not explaining.
Well, there is
mind.
no other way you can explain. You can't jump from matter to mind.
Explanations for mind.
There is a gap that is impossible to.
Hold on a second.
Welcome,
okay. Are you asserting like that the hard problem of consciousness is an uncrossable gulf, and that like the scientific community is just like confounded by it? Is that what you're claiming?
Yeah.
Okay. So are you aware of the fact that Chalmers basically changed his tune to the meta problem of consciousness, which is like, why do people feel or intuit that there's a hard problem? Because he faced the reality that like the entirety of cognitive science just kind of laughed off the hard problem and went about like exploring how the brain works, being able to predict what people are thinking next before they think it, what they're going to do next before they do it, being able to read people's thoughts with like 70-80% accuracy, being able to decode the visual field with high
What do you mean
accuracy.
before they think it? I mean, if you're talking about a second or so before they think it, I mean, of course, you can predict from the mind a second before someone thinks something that they're probably going to think something in many cases. I mean, that's not really an explanation of anything.
Did you hear the part where we decoded what people are thinking with like 80% accuracy?
Yeah, I mean, you can.
fMRI data.
Again, I agree with correspondence. I agree with the correspondence with the neuronic activity, but that does not explain the actual experience itself, which is mind.
The actual experience itself is something that if you were talking to an entity that had the same experiences you did, talked about the same stuff, like walked like a duck, talked like a buck, but was made of artificial neurons, no biological cells involved, right? The Lieutenant Commander Data scenario, essentially. Are you going to tell it that it's a P-zombie and then just turn it off and delete it? Or are you going to think that maybe it is a a conscious being because it can do the things conscious beings can do?
First of all, there's no way to know, but I would certainly give it the benefit of the doubt since I have conscious abilities, although I am a solipsist technically. So, but I mean that's besides the point. I mean, I can certainly give other
You're a
conscious.
solipsist?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Did
That's based
you
upon
know
actual knowledge.
that when solipsists throw a party, everyone's invited?
That's true. That's true. But anyway, yeah, no, my philosophy is based on actual knowledge, so therefore I'm a solipsist, although I can give people benefit of the doubt for the sake of argument. But the problem is, again, you have correspondence between the material activity and what you're experiencing, but the correspondence is not itself the explanation of the thing in itself. So that's it.
So it's simple. If you have a bottom-up correspondence explanation for something, and then you have some like top-down observation that's subjective, which of those do you think has primacy? In other words, which is explanatory of the other? Do you think it works like bidirectionally? Do you think like the top-down
It doesn't
view of it
explain the other. It
causes the
corresponds to the other.
physical phenomena? Okay,
It
it's called
does.
supervenience, right? Every so-called mental fact seems to correspond to a causally explanatory physical
Correct.
fact.
It corresponds. Yes.
Right. But the difference is that the physical stuff is causal. In other words, there's a causal closure, empirically adequate model of how it occurs. Whereas
No, well,
the result,
empirically adequate model, but again, empiricism does not, you can't make the leap from empiricism to the direct experience and the quality itself. You can't do that.
we are
So therefore, you do
literally
not have an
reading
adequate
people's minds.
explanation for what you're experiencing.
Okay. We are literally reading people's minds, decoding it from the neurons that are firing. So the only thing that's left for the so-called hard problem is but the person experiencing the thing is distinct from any of the data that used to be attributed to be private and qualia and all that kind of stuff, right? It's just, but they're experiencing it, not you. It's like, okay, sure. So if I copy you with a transporter twice, then each of you is experiencing a different thing. However, you're definitely experiencing the same thing if we decode your brain and the things you're experiencing are identical. Would you dispute that you're having identical experiences just because there's two copies of you experiencing it separately?
I wouldn't dispute it, but I'd have no direct proof of that.
No, but the whole point is that by decoding it, you could see, let's say, two people having exactly the same mental experience. You could look at a mirror.
I mean, here's the thing. Okay, you're going on with correspondence, and therefore you're disproven. But that's not disproof of anything. And you're also, I mean, I admit correspondence because, there is a corresponding material activity that corresponds to the qualia that you're experiencing. But that doesn't mean that it is a sufficient explanation for the experience itself. It's not.
It's a causal account that can predict. The other has no predictive power, right? So if I look at your mental, if I look at your
no, the mind does have predictive power over what it will think in the future. Of course, it does.
It has like an explanatory usefulness right now because we don't have a completed model of the other way around, right? But what we do know is that if the model's perfect and you can predict what the person's going to think and say next, that's probably the real explanation of what's going on, not the subjective like feeling that they think they're going to feel something next, which they often don't, which they're often wrong about. People's
Again,
user reports are frequently mistaken, provably so. Like, you're familiar with split brain, where you literally have a person talking out of both sides of their brain, where one hand and one eye see and think different thoughts and behave as though they know different things than the other?
Well, I have heard many arguments from neuroscientists, from doctors. In fact, I think TJump has had some on his program where there are many things that are not yet explained through purely neuronal processes.
Yes.
But look, the point is, and we can go even beyond that to things like rearrangement of quarks creates all the different kinds of direct experiences you have of matter. The rearranging a nanoparticle, which has a certain description and definition, to claim that it can lead to all these diverse emergent properties without explanation, just accepting that, is an inadequate and unsatisfactory explanation of phenomenon. It just is. And so the mind is a much better explanation that we have at our disposal right now. Okay, now maybe you could try to argue in the future, we'll come up with some better explanation a million years from now or something. But right now, based upon what we have, mind is a much better explanatory. There being a God with a mind is a much better explanation of all of these phenomena than just saying
does it predict?
Pure materialism. Okay, and
What does it predict?
both are
Can you make a
religions. I mean, I
prediction?
think you have to be honest. Both are religions. Both
No,
are
no,
attempts
one
to
makes
explain everything.
predictions. Physically explanatory, empirically adequate models make predictions. The mind doesn't make any new predictions.
Sure, it does. It
At
makes a
best,
prediction that you're going to
it's like
experience
string
things the way
theory
a mind would.
on a bad day. Like you can say, look, well, the mind hypothesis is compatible with all neuroscience. You admit supervenience. You admit that physics can predict all the things that are going to happen in brains and so on, and that's going to be able to predict what people are going to say and do, and decode what they're saying and doing.
I don't know
all
if it
that.
could predict
But you're just
days
gonna
and months
say-
later. No, I think it can predict maybe within a few seconds at most. I don't think.
Yeah,
No, I
that's-
don't think it can predict what the brain's going to do months later. No.
So no one's claiming anyone's going to do any months later predictions about just about any physical thing.
Right.
Like
Right.
the weather is just struggling to get like a week or two out. Sure, but the point is that like if you have to grant everything that neuroscience and physics says about the brain, and you have to posit what it is that your theory says that doesn't, and the only thing you can posit is something with no predictive explanatory value other than it's like an interpretation, then at best you're like trying to be the string theory of consciousness, right? Which is to say you don't generate any results.
Well, I would also point
well-
out that it would be going in a weird order. It would be going from complex to simple, back to complex again. And we don't tend to find very complex things as we look back in time. It tends to get simpler. And so it would just be odd, I think, to have a mind at the beginning. If not, I can't even conceive of what before, because that is causality. But why would a mind be there?
Well, that's the whole point of divine simplicity theory, I guess, is that you're going to start with something that is every potential way of existing, and then everything in our experience will be a limitation on that every potential way. So, granted, you can start with a mind, and then there can be correspondences in the material world. I just think that's a better explanation than just saying everything is reduced to matter. I mean,
Okay, so you think it's
a religion.
possible? You think it's possible for God to have a mind and be divinely simple? So does a mind have distinctions?
Not like ours would. I mean, for example, I would say that this current experience would just be the mind limiting itself to have those distinctions. So from all eternity, to put it in best words possible, this mind has decided to experience limitation for whatever reason, perhaps entertainment purposes or whatever purpose from all eternity. So there is an aspect of its mind that has these avatar type limitations.
I didn't really hear an answer to my question, because I mean, the only thing you granted is that you're not actually saying it's a mind. You're just saying it's analogous to a mind, right?
Correct.
So it's a who knows what's it that you think is analogous to a mind. But when I
Well,
ask,
it's very analogous to a mind, though. I mean, it
when I
has
ask, does
mental
it have
states.
or make, right? If it has states, those are distinctions, and then it's not simple. Divine simplicity can't work if it has distinctions. Like
it depends from what perspective you're viewing it. I mean, if you're viewing it from the state of limitation, then you can demarcate distinctions that were always present within it but are not distinguished and distinct in its ultimate state, because it is every way of distinguishing itself and existing. So it's not really, I mean, yeah, we can talk about it from our limited experiences as to what has come out of that mind.
That was kind of a word salad. Like, okay, God is the Trinity, but he's also divinely simple. He has no properties, no parts, no qualities, right?
Well, I'm not a Christian, so I don't accept the Trinity, but
okay,
yeah.
But you brought up the divine simplicity. I just assumed that because you brought up divine simplicity. Sorry, it was my mistake. But what is a just brief summary of your belief? Sorry, I wasn't here for the beginning.
Well, I'm a solipsist, so I mean, as far as I can prove anything. So I believe that the ultimate reality is mind. It's the only way you can explain everything in reality is the best is through mind. You cannot explain it through pure materialism.
To interject, when you say solipsist, do you mean that you think that everyone is you? It's just you're having.
Because I'm the only being that I can prove, then that's my assumption. But doesn't mean it's I'm limiting myself to what I can prove.
Well, I guess my question is why?
Why would I assume anything is existent beyond what I can prove?
Well, you have at least personal experience. We can use science to.
Right, but I mean that's experience is experience. That doesn't prove independent grounding in other beings or other consciousnesses beyond mine.
I guess that, we could technically be brains in vats. We could be in the Matrix. It's just that without any actual evidence in that direction, I actually think it's we shouldn't take a positive position. I don't understand why you actually, I could understand saying you can't disprove solipsism, but I don't understand why you would say I am a solipsist. Because when you are a solipsist, you are in essence saying that you are everyone. You have written every greatest book. You have written and all the failed books too. And
well, I mean, there is a subconscious mind, so who knows how far that goes, right? But here's the point. The point is that I'm only going as far as what I can prove. You are making additional leaps and asserting things that you have not proven.
See, I disagree. I don't think you can prove that solipsism is true. Just because it's not in one direction doesn't mean it has to swing in the opposite direction. I think, or at least I believe, that I only have beliefs that I can verify. As in, yes, that is true. My favorite color can be, teal or purple or whatever you like. However, I don't have an opinion on the speed of light. It is E equals mc squared. And so there are things that I don't think
Right, but you're
Okay.
saying, okay, here's the thing though, okay, you're asserting that, I mean, I'm assuming you're a materialist.
I am.
Okay, so you are asserting an independent ground for the reality that's around you, and you are asserting that without proof.
See, it starts to get very fuzzy language, an independent grounding for reality. I believe that we have reality. I think, therefore I am. I think it's one of the only things that we can actually.
So why not stop there? Why are you going further than that and asserting things that are not proven?
Oh, because we have I think, therefore I am, and we have logic. And from these, we can start to build a foundation. Eventually, we can build a process of science.
You can build a process within the dream, potentially the dream reality that you're in. Sure, yeah.
See, but you're asserting it's a dream reality. You don't have evidence.
Well, I'm not asserting. I'm just asserting myself, right? I'm asserting that this is what I'm seeing around me is an extension of myself, because I can only prove that I exist.
All right, I gotta go, guys. I'll talk to you later. Let Ix and Amy can run the show. Peace out.
Have a good one.